Long Chen smiled sinisterly. Upon activating the Nirvana scripture, the black flame lotus in his hand rapidly grew. Flame energy surged toward him from every direction. "Bastard, if you dare to block me, you'll also die," roared Huan, his expression changing upon seeing that black lotus. As a flame cultivator, he could sense its power. If it was during normal times, perhaps he wouldn't be afraid. But now, if he was blocked, the ox-head devil behind him would catch up. "I don't believe that. I want to try." Seeing Hua Liyun rushing over, Long Chen didn't have time for the flame lotus to grow to its peak. He threw it at him. "You're courting death." Hua Liyun furiously stabbed his spear at the flame lotus. He activated his divine item's power. Black and red flames exploded. The world shuddered. Flames spread out in every direction. Just at that moment, 72 golden dragon teeth pierced through the flames at Hua Liyun. Hua Liyun's expression was extremely ugly. 72 dragon teeth at the same time meant that he had no choice but to block them with his full power. Endless flame domain, Lord Brahma's wrath. The flame gate behind Hua Liyun opened once more. A hand of flames reached out from within it, holding a giant sword. That flaming sword had just appeared when Hua Liyun turned as pale as paper. This was his trump card used only for dealing fatal blows. Using it required a heavy price. Boom! The flame spear slashed into the dragon teeth. The flame sword exploded, while Long Chen's dragon teeth were all sent flying. How powerful! Long Chen was surprised. He had utilized 72 dragon teeth this time and had been thinking that they would be enough to kill him. However, Feng had his trump cards as well. Boom! However, Long Chen's attack knocked Hua Liyun back. Behind him was the ox-head devil, and one of its huge palms smashed toward him. Despite doing his best to block, Hua Liyun was sent smashing into the ground. It was unknown if he survived. Just as Hua Liyun was struck, 3 other giant palms came smashing toward Long Chen. Long Chen had no time to observe Hua Liyun's condition and directly activated the celestial lightning body blink. The huge gate was behind him, and he charged in. Boom! Just as he thought that he had escaped by entering the gate exploded, and he was sent flying by a powerful chi wave. Long Chen had just appeared when he heard Chu Yao's startled cry. Shi, Lu Rian, and Yi Lingshan had been anxiously waiting for him. With the destruction of the gate, the vines protecting the gate were blown apart. The sky was torn apart. A giant crack appeared, and those ox-head devils actually tore through the spatial gate that led to their own minor world. "Get back!" shouted Long Chen. "Long Chen, what are you planning on doing?" shouted Yi Lingshan. "Just get back. I have business to handle." After saying that, Long Chen shot forward, slashing the ox-head devils with a lightning blade. This lightning blade was easily blown apart by one of their palms, but this attack was just to draw their attention. They began charging at Long Chen. Long Chen turned and fled, while those ox-head devils crazily chased him. In an instant, Long Chen arrived in the giant mountain range. Here, there were countless formations protecting them. Boom! One of them stamped straight on one of the mountains, crushing it. When that ox-head devil touched it, the formations in the surroundings lit up. A pillar of light shot out of each of the small trees growing at the peak of the mountains, and they converged together to strike the ox-head devils. Swords of light pierced through their bodies and blood splashed. However, their bodies were giant, and these swords of light were unable to cause any fatal damage. The ox-head devils roared furiously. They began smashing their fists on the ground. Their terrifying power caused huge shockwaves that shook the grand formation intensely. Suddenly, those small trees exploded, and the formations rapidly dimmed. "Quick, gather the plants. I'll draw their attention," shouted Long Chen. Lightning flashed around him brightly, as he was worried that the ox-head devils wouldn't notice him. He began rushing in one direction. The ox-head devils roared and chased after him. They quickly caught up, but their giant bodies made them look like humongous gorillas trying to swat a fly. Chaos reigned. Long Chen danced and weaved through their claws. It was incredibly dangerous. Being struck by one would turn him into a pancake. Chu Yao, Lu Rian, and Yi Lingshan gathered the plants as quickly as they could. Lu Ruyan and Chu Yao in particular were gathering them mountain by mountain, and their efficiency was extremely great. Long Qin, we're done, shouted Chu Yao. Die! Suddenly, a blood-colored spear pierced out of the air at Chu Yao's back. At some point, Huolian had also arrived, and his first target was Chu Yao. Endless falling wood, undying wall. The first one to react was Lu Ruyan. The ground erupted, and one giant wooden wall appeared after another. Each wall was actually a strange tree. After taking the shape of a shield, countless roots pierced into the grounds. It was incredibly tough. The tough wooden shields exploded one by one in front of Huolian's divine item. In order to kill Chu Yao, Huolian was going all out. 9 wooden shields exploded in just an instant. In front of the spear, they appeared weak. However, once the 9 wooden shields were destroyed, Chu Yao's figure had vanished. What replaced Chu Yao was a sword shining with brilliant divine light. It transformed into a starry ray of light that pierced toward Huolian. Boom! Huolian's spear met it head-on. After blowing through the 9 wooden shields, less than half of its power remained. As a result, this clash caused Huolian's body to shudder. He coughed up a mouthful of blood, flying back. He almost lost hold of his spear. Sharp thorns shot out of the ground behind him as he flew back. The wooden thorns pierced his body. Chu Yao had summoned them. Lu Ruyan had blocked the attack for her, and she had immediately moved and switched to a counterattack. Those wooden thorns were just about to transform Huolian's body into wood, turning him into a wooden block, when Huolian let out a shout. Blood flame devours the heavens. Huolian's bloodline power erupted. His blood was like lava, incinerating Chu Yao's wooden thorns. Having failed his sneak attack, Huolian had almost died. Seeing Lu Ruyan summon a giant willow tree, he wisely flapped a pair of flame wings and fled into the mist surrounding this region. He vanished. Chu Yao, Lu Ruyan, and Yi Lingshan were shaken inside. Huolian was truly terrifying. He was clearly already heavily injured but had still possessed such power. Even the 3 of them together had been unable to keep him from fleeing. Let's get out while we can. Just at this moment, Long Qin flew over. The 4 of them flew toward the mist together. It was unknown if the ox-headed devil beasts were afraid of the mist or had finally reached some limit, but after circling a few times in front of the mist, they stopped. After letting out a few unwilling roars, they returned to their ruined world. Inside the mist, the 4 of them exchanged a glance and laughed. That was the delight of escaping from death. Stimulating, definitely stimulating. It was almost stimulating to death, laughed Long Qin. He collapsed on the ground, sitting on his butt. It was definitely stimulating. I almost lost my life. When I was trapped underground, I thought I was doomed. But those angry ox-head devils actually tore apart the earth, and that's the only way I escaped. Yi Lingshan sighed deeply. These ox-head devils are terrifying. Perhaps their power can compare to peak nether passage experts. To be able to escape is definitely fortunate. As for Huolian, he was powerful enough to withstand their attacks. No wonder he is so arrogant. He has the capital to be arrogant, said Chu Yao. She took out a set of black robes for Long Qin to change into. Long Qin's black robes were broken at his arms and covered in blood and holes. All of Long Qin's robes were personally sewn by Chu Yao. Even when she had been the princess of the empire, she had always been skilled in the feminine arts. Long Qin put on the new robes, and Chu Yao also tidied up his hair. He felt much more refreshed. Feeling Chu Yao's soft movements, Long Qin smiled. He was really powerful. That ox-headed devil actually didn't kill him in one blow. Long Qin explained how he had blocked Huolian and how the latter had been struck head-on. The 3 of them couldn't help finding it funny that a generation's genius had almost been conned to death by Long Qin. No wonder he would target Chu Yao. It's your fault, said Lu Ruyan coldly. He didn't want to kill just me, but all of us. I was just at the best angle for you, said Chu Yao. Although there was some truth to that, she was protecting Long Qin. Let's go. We should find somewhere safe to check our harvest. The 4 of them left this place together. The four of them left this dangerous region and found a secluded place to rest. The main thing was that Yi Lingshan was heavily injured. While underground, Yi Lingshan had faced the attacks of those terrifying ox-head devils. She had been heavily injured, but at the time, she had used a secret art to temporarily suppress her injuries. Naturally, her injuries could only be suppressed for a while. Fortunately, Chu Yao was present, and her wood's spiritual energy was incomparably pure. After spending a whole day, Yi Lingshan was fully recovered. If Chu Yao hadn't been present, it would have taken at least half a month for Yi Lingshan to recover. In this dangerous place, being in an injured state could be fatal. Both Long Chen and Chu Yao knew that part of the reason why Yi Lingshan's injuries were so severe was because she had received Huo Lieyun's spear with her sword. In her heavily injured state, that attack had been too forced, worsening her condition. It's nice having friends. Only upon joining the Martial Heaven Alliance did I ever feel what it's like to have a family. Yi Lingshan sighed deeply when she sensed that she had fully recovered. She had always been a solitary figure, and when injured, she could only find somewhere to hide, afraid her enemies would find her. Those bitter times had been hard. Upon joining the Martial Heaven Alliance, she had been viewed as the Elder's child. They all protected her and were kind to her. Now if she was injured, there was someone to heal her, someone to look after her, someone to protect her. That feeling was something that she hadn't even dared to dream of before. It might be better to join the Dragonblood Legion, probed Chu Yao with a faint smile. Yi Lingshan suddenly blushed and shook her head. Thank you, but I can't. My master told me that Long Chen is skilled at seducing others, so I have to be on guard against him. Long Chen almost coughed up a mouthful of blood. Could the people closest to him not keep saying things like that? It was too hurtful. Your master's eyes are wise. She immediately saw through the unfaithful heart of a certain person, added Lu Rian profoundly. Don't you think that's too much? Certain people always forget favors, not even saying a word of thanks after gaining giant benefits. I'm just befuddled. Do you think such people never grew a conscience? Long Chen's face was growing darker and darker. If she didn't want to thank him, then fine. But she actually threw stones at him while he was down. Lu Rian also seemed to feel like she had gone a bit too far. She snorted, but she didn't retort. Chu Yao shook her head. Lu Rian seemed to view Long Chen as a fated enemy. However, part of this couldn't be helped. Lu Rian was innately an undying willow. She was a wood element life form, but she also possessed dark energy. Her character was prideful and cold. There was also Long Chen's flame energy and thunder force. Both of those energies represented destruction, which possessed a natural repulsive effect toward wood cultivators with life energy. Chu Yao had a deep spiritual connection with Long Chen, so that repulsive effect wasn't so great. However, Lu Rian was different. The two of them hadn't been friends from the start, so adding this elemental rejection, it was difficult for the two of them to get along. This time, however, Lu Rian had ended up owing Long Chen an immense debt. That primal chaos divine elixir would completely transform her. It was just that she needed some more time to refine it all. Considering the amount that the yin-yang immortal grass had sealed within her body, she didn't even know how much time it would take. Seeming to realize that Long Chen and Lu Rian didn't get along, Yi Lingshan quickly changed the subject. Long Chen, you really are powerful. You even killed that divine emissary of the Blood Kill Hall. He was a very terrifying existence. Chu Yao and Lu Rian also nodded. Eliminating a slippery assassin was truly difficult. It was just luck. Long Chen shook his head. If he had used his full power, I would have had an 80% chance of defeating him, but less than a 10% chance of killing him. He actually died due to Hualain. What? The three women didn't understand. How was this connected to Hualain? That assassin was very crafty and skilled in scheming. He didn't want to use too much power or expose his trump cards. He wanted to bait me into a direct clash with Hualain and then gather benefits from the side, using the least amount of power to kill me. Actually, something similar occurred to me before when true immortal Jiaoqi and Xia Luo both attacked at the same time. They were both scheming against each other, not wanting to expose their trump cards. I tried to kill them with something similar, but I was too greedy and didn't succeed. However, this time I managed to pull it off. Long Chen smiled. Having conned one of the Bloodkill Hall's divine emissaries to death could count as a harvest. The Bloodkill Hall's experts were very difficult to kill. Eliminating one of them on this level was something that made even Long Chen feel some pride. Then do you mean the divine emissary was even stronger than we thought? If that's the case, he'll probably be crying on his path to the Yellow Springs, said Chu Yao with a laugh. Such an expert had died so sullenly. He deserves it. Most people who die to assassins also have sullen deaths. The assassins aren't actually strong but can kill people several times stronger than themselves. Assassinating targets across realms is easy for them. To put it bluntly, assassination arts are scams, but as long as someone is fooled, they'll die. The one who lives is naturally the expert. Long Chen shrugged. Chu Yao and the others nodded. An expert on this level had died just like that due to making a mistake in his own scheme. Long Chen, what is that copper plate? How could it draw out such terrifying monsters? Asked Yi Lingshan. Long Chen took the copper plate again. Now there was a faint sheen to it that hadn't existed before. It seemed like the slightest breath of life had been breathed into it. This copper plate's origin is extremely shocking. You know of the Martial Heaven Continent's 5 supreme divine items? Are you saying? Yes. This copper plate is a fragment of the leader of the 5 great divine items, the Eastern Wasteland Bell, said Long Chen. How can you know that? Demanded Yi Lingshan. Because I met it and had a business transaction with it. Its body is fragmented, and this is one of the fragments. I just don't know why it would be sealed here. Its divine essence has essentially been sucked dry. Most likely, it was absorbed by the altar. As for who did it or their goals, we can't know. Back when I asked the Eastern Wasteland Bell why it had fallen to such a point, it wouldn't tell me. Lingshan, this copper plate is on its last breaths and requires a huge amount of spiritual strength to nourish it. Please leave it with me. I might be able to use it, said Long Chen. He rarely asked others for things, but this copper plate was too important. Just take it. It's useless to me, said Yi Lingshan magnanimously. Long Chen nodded gratefully. Yi Lingshan's words were naturally false. How could a fragment of a supreme divine item be useless? However, she gave it to him without hesitation. Thank you. Don't tell anyone about this copper plate, including your master, warned Long Chen solemnly. Why? Because the implications are too big. When I met the Eastern Wasteland Bell, I could vaguely sense that something was off. Just think about it. The leader of the 5 supreme divine items was almost destroyed. The Eastern Wasteland Bell is an existence that maintains the karmic luck of the entire Martial Heaven continent. As for the other 4 supreme divine items, there's no news about them. It repeatedly told me not to ask what had happened, because the karmic burden was too heavy. That's why you shouldn't draw the Alliance head into this matter. Yi Lingshan suddenly had a thought. Looking at Long Chen, she said, but then I've already met the Eastern Wasteland Bell, so I don't mind adding on this bit of karma as well. When have I ever been afraid? Long Chen smiled. Thank you. At this point, Yi Lingshan realized that Long Chen was bearing the karma for her, while he made it seem like he was the one who owed her a favor. Yi Lingshan knew that any supreme existence was related to the heavenly Daos, and being involved with them could easily cause the heavenly Daos to sense them. Some karma would be settled during heavenly tribulation. The heavenly Daos would silently increase the difficulty of the heavenly tribulation, turning it into heavenly punishment. It was unknown how many people had been killed like this without even being aware of what had happened. That was karma. As for the Eastern Wasteland Bell, it was the leader of the 5 supreme divine items. If she kept it without any preparations, her heavenly tribulation might transform due to the matter of the Eastern Wasteland Bell. She might die if she wasn't aware. We're a family, so no need for words of courtesy. What plans do you have now? Asked Long Chen. Plans? I'm planning on searching for more treasures, said Yi Lingshan with a confused look. Seeing Long Chen's bitter smile, Yi Lingshan didn't know what she had said wrong. Looking at her oddly, Long Chen asked, as the future leader of the Martial Heaven Alliance, have you not noticed anything? I didn't see anything? Long Chen sighed. Fine, I'll tell you. The board of the martial heaven continent is about to completely transform with the opening of the yin-yang world. If you do not grasp this opportunity, the martial heaven alliance will shatter. Long Qin, do you think I'm stupid? Yi Lingshan had a bitter smile. No, you're not stupid. You're just a tiny bit foolish, comforted Long Qin. Scoundrel, how could you say such a thing? Chu Yao pushed Long Qin. Hee, it was just a joke, said Long Qin. Yi Lingshan shook her head. I feel very foolish, especially compared to you. It feels like it was a miracle I could live until today. Long Qin said there was a crisis, but she didn't see anything. Long Qin, don't keep us in suspense. I also don't see the danger you're talking about. Tell us, urged Chu Yao. Long Qin cleared his throat. Actually, you've also seen it, but you aren't thinking far enough. The current righteous path has a portion leaning toward Pill Valley. You saw it in the battle. There were no other experts from the righteous path. They were all on Pill Valley's side. That means that the people of the Martial Heaven Alliance had been cleared before we arrived. In other words, they were either scared away by the other experts there or killed. That's why the remaining people were all our enemies. The righteous path, the corrupt path, the ancient races, the ancient family alliance, the Xian beasts, the Bloodkill Hall, they've all banded together. It's a kind of hidden scheme, or perhaps even an open scheme. Pill Valley has essentially expressed its attitude. It wants to gather all the powers on the continent to target the Martial Heaven Alliance. The people that have not joined Pill Valley's side become isolated forces. If they are allowed to be picked off bit by bit, it will be a fatal blow to the Martial Heaven Alliance. The ones still standing on the sidelines will all end up throwing themselves on Pill Valley's mercy. Even the powers belonging to the Martial Heaven Alliance will be rattled. You saw the situation there. All those people were from different forces, yet they didn't attack each other. They only targeted those righteous experts who didn't submit to their side. Now you should understand the crisis. Only then did Yi Lingshan and Chu Yao realize just how serious things were. Just how were the Martial Heaven Alliance's experts supposed to handle so many powerful enemies? If when the yin-yang world closed, the majority of the Martial Heaven Alliance's experts had died, it would definitely be the final nail in the coffin for the Martial Heaven Alliance. Then what should we do? Asked Yi Lingshan hastily. Not us. It's what you should do, said Long Qin. You are the future leader of the Martial Heaven Alliance. At this time, it's up to you to decide the fate of the Martial Heaven Alliance. The Alliance head has already left that authority to you. Long Qin pointed to the sword on her back. That was the significance behind Chu Jianying giving it to her. But I can't handle something like that. Yi Lingshan's voice quivered. She had always been a solitary figure. All right, since you're too foolish, I'll explain it to you another way. I ask you, if the Martial Heaven Alliance was about to be destroyed, would you be willing to sacrifice your life to win a chance for the Martial Heaven Alliance? Asked Long Qin bluntly. His bluntness caused Chu Yao to glare at him. His words were hurtful. Of course, I would be willing, said Yi Lingshan without any hesitation. Long Qin nodded. Good. Then you can start risking your life now. How? Against who? Asked Yi Lingshan. Of course, not against me. Go fight your enemies. If there are no enemies before you, then go find them. This is the best era and the worst era. The Martial Heaven Alliance's opportunity lies in this moment, said Long Qin. Chu Yao suddenly clapped her hands together, exclaiming, I understand. Long Qin is saying that since the Martial Heaven Alliance is in a time of great crisis, the ones harboring sinister intentions have already joined Pill Valley. There is another portion that is still standing to the side, so those that can still stand together with the Martial Heaven Alliance are essentially all loyal. It's like this tribulation is a giant wave washing away the sand, leaving only the gold. Long Qin is saying that you should gather the bits of gold together and have them become the Martial Heaven Alliance's solid backing. With the crisis upon us, you should step forward and lead the people loyal to you. Show yourself fighting bravely on the front lines. Show yourself uniting the righteous path. Make a rallying call and strike back. I'm sure many experts of the righteous path have suffered quite a bit of bullying. If you call out to them, they will naturally answer. Only once everyone is united can they fight back. This is a rare opportunity. Born in the imperial palace, Chu Yao was naturally more familiar with the art of war. She understood Long Chen's words quicker. But, will I really be able to do that? Yi Lingshan still lacked confidence. Aren't you unafraid of dying? So why be afraid of failing? Lingshan, leaders aren't born but made. When Senior Chu Jianying led the righteous path back in the day, she slaughtered the corrupt path, terrifying them. At that time, she wasn't much older than you, and her cultivation base wasn't higher. To be a leader, you need courage and resolve. What is confidence? It's something piled up bit by bit. Right now, you need to accumulate the experience of succeeding once. Don't go looking for more treasures. Starting now, gather the righteous experts. Save them from being besieged from all sides. Start rolling the snowball now, and it will grow bigger and bigger. If you want to be a successful leader, you need a particular charisma. One of the most charismatic things a leader can do is to risk their own life for their people. That will make others willing to entrust their lives to you, encouraged Long Chen. After hearing this, Yi Lingshan's blood began to heat up. Scene after scene appeared in her mind. In those scenes, she was leading countless righteous experts against their enemies in battle. Blood dyed her robes as she fought valiantly. Thank you, Long Chen. I understand. I won't disappoint my master. Although I still feel like you are better than me, I will definitely do my best. Even if I have to lose my life, I'll live up to the sword on my back. Yi Lingshan suddenly stood. She seemed like a completely different person. Long Chen smiled. We're different. You walk the King Dao, I walk the Hegemon Dao. There's a fundamental difference between them. Before this, you had to put your life on the line just to survive. Starting today, you will put your life on the line for others. You will find that there's an immense difference between them. Only when they're protecting something dear to them can someone unleash their greatest power. Yi Lingshan bowed slightly. Many thanks. I'll leave right now. Wait, I'll go with you, said Chu Yao suddenly. Long Chen was startled. Could it be that his words had been so persuasive that even Chu Yao wanted to go? That wasn't in his plans. Big sister, you? Yi Lingshan was also startled. Chu Yao smiled. Rian needs to focus on refining the divine elixir. Without her, I would be at a disadvantage against people on the level of the Bloodkill Hall's divine emissaries. I would rather go with you while Rian stays in seclusion. With two people it won't be so lonely. Yi Lingshan was naturally delighted. Chu Yao was a terrifying wood cultivator, perfect for controlling the rhythm of a battle. With Chu Yao's defense and Yi Lingshan's offense together, the two of them wouldn't fear anyone. Many thanks. Yi Lingshan happily pulled Chu Yao away. As for Lu Rian, she was now in seclusion in Chu Yao's spiritual space. Long Chen, don't get into too much trouble. Chu Yao's voice rang out from a distance. There was a faint laughter along with it. Long Chen had an urge to cry. Originally, he had been wanting to stimulate Yi Lingshan's will, having her take this opportunity to become the leader of the righteous path. However, even Chu Yao had been seduced by his words. Fine, I'll do my best. Long Chen bitterly smiled. If Chu Yao was with him, then with her with spirit union, he would have an ocean's worth of spiritual yuan to use. Wouldn't he be able to dominate his enemies then? However, that was all a dream now. When he thought about it, he supposed that this was good as well. With Yi Lingshan and Chu Yao together, they had top offense and top defense. Yi Lingshan even had a paragon art. Even if they encountered people like true immortal Jiaoqi or Xia Luo, they wouldn't be in danger. Long Chen examined the copper plate in his spiritual space. After being nourished by his soul for a while, there was the slightest fluctuation coming from it, putting him at ease. The Eastern Wasteland Bell was the leader of the 5 supreme divine items. For it to recover its original divine might, it would need to regather its fragments. This piece in his hands was very important. It was just that he had no idea where the Eastern Wasteland Bell was. Back when it was leaving, it said that it was going to regather its body. Even after so many years, there wasn't the slightest news about it. Hence, Long Chen had no idea how much it had managed to regather. He then turned to look at Evil Moon. It was still in seclusion, and Long Chen could not communicate with it using his divine sense. He would be unable to activate its divine power during this time. Long Chen stood and patted off some dust. He was about to leave when an arrow of light suddenly pierced into the clouds in the distance. Divine light exploded, blowing away the clouds. This aura fits him. Long Chen's expression changed. He hastily rushed over in that direction. Rumbling rang out, and divine light exploded. Saber images and sword chi raged through the air. There were actually multiple people activating the power of their divine items in a crazy battle. Nian, I bet you never thought such a day would come for you. With death at hand, have you ever thought of digging your own grave? Long Chen rushed over and saw over 100 people crazily attacking a cloaked man. Upon seeing that man with his face that still had a bit of baby fat, Long Chen smiled. Even after all these years, it seemed that this fellow had yet to change. The person being besieged from all sides by over 100 experts was one Long Chen hadn't seen in several years, Nian. Nian had a bow in hand, and his manifestation was present behind him. Long Chen could see two figures within his manifestation. They were both standing there, their hands in a seal. Divine light flowed through them and into Nian. Nian was covered in blood. It was unknown if it was his or someone else's, but he looked to be in a bad spot. His aura was fluctuating intensely. It seemed as if he had been gravely injured. What was shocking though was that even in this state, even against experts who were activating the power of their divine abilities, the five-colored bow in Nian's hand was able to resolve all the attacks he faced. Even in his heavily injured state, he wasn't defeated. That bow, Long Chen saw all the attacks actually rebound off the bow. With Nian's aura in a chaotic state, he was practically on his last legs. He was relying entirely on that bow in his hand. Nian, you've committed too many sins. After grave robbing all day, your retribution has finally come. Sneered someone. The majority of these experts were from the Ancient Family Alliance, and the others were from the Righteous Path, Corrupt Path, Ancient Races, and Shen Beasts. Clearly, they had formed an alliance. Long Chen's guess was not wrong. Pill Valley was finally baring its fangs. Even facing over 100 experts, Nian cursed back. Fuck off, it's not grave robbing. Did your masters die early? Have you not heard of a term called archaeology? I, Nian, am searching through ancient remains for the legacy of the human race. I am enhancing the current cultivation world civilization. As a pioneer of the archaeology field, I will bring the world to an unprecedented future. What qualifications do you have to act like you're better than me? I know the heavens, I know the earth, and I know the air in between. I am one who explores the limits of the world, not a group of blind ants like you. What bullshit! To describe grave robbing so honorably, your face really is thick. Maybe no one else can compare when it comes to that. Roared someone else. That person was especially angry because his family's tomb had been robbed by Nian. It wasn't just him. Amongst the ancient families, most of them with a certain level of power or ancient inheritance had had their ancestral tombs robbed by Nian. When it comes to the thickness of one's face, I'm a far cry from Long Chen. Are you blind? Cursed Nian. What the fuck, even when I'm not there, I get shot by you. If you want to be shameless, fine, but don't bring me into it. Long Chen finally couldn't endure it anymore and jumped in. 72 golden rays of light shot through the experts attacking Nian. Long Chen could see that Nian was heavily injured, and he was forced to conserve his power to suppress his injuries. If he continued to do that, he would be worn down slowly. Knowing Nian, if he was forced to that extent, he might do something crazy. The dragon teeth struck suddenly, catching the attackers off guard. By the time they reacted, the dragon teeth had reached them. Divine items shattered as those who clashed with the dragon teeth were blown apart. The majority of these people only had quasi-divine items, and they were unable to block the attack of the dragon teeth. They were instantly annihilated. Long Chen, you came at a good time. Help me annihilate these bastards. Seeing Long Chen, Nian was revitalized. Taking advantage of the chaos, 5-colored divine light came from his bow. Rays of light shot out, each striking their target. After Long Chen's attack, only 35 experts had survived relying on their half-step divine items. Those people were all elite Empyreans, but even so, Long Chen's attack had cost them half their lives. They were still hacking up blood when Nian's arrows arrived. The arrows pierced through their heads, and their accuracy was amazing. 35 arrows flew by, and 35 experts were slain. Not one escaped. Even Long Chen was stunned. Nian's archery was practically godlike. Long Chen waved his hand, grabbing the now masterless divine items. Before they could fight back, he tossed them in the primal chaos space. Several explosions erupted within the primal chaos space. Some divine items resisted and were annihilated by the primal chaos bead. It was the smarter ones who immediately went still and didn't dare to resist. Long Chen moved quickly, but he was still a bit too slow. The majority of the intact divine items managed to flee. He only managed to grab 17 swords. 5 of them exploded, but 12 of them submitted. Those 12 had comparatively more intelligent item spirits, so their quality was a bit higher. 12 divine items was quite the harvest. Nian, it's been a while since I saw your fat face. Only then did Long Chen fly over to Nian. He gave him a fierce embrace. After parting in the eastern wasteland, it had been many years. He had been concerned about him and hadn't expected to meet like this. Your mouth is still the same. For you to have lived until today really is a miracle. Nian suddenly coughed up a mouthful of blood, making Long Chen jump. What happened? Are you injured? Long Chen hastily took out a healing pill for him. He investigated Nian's body, and his expression suddenly changed. Nian's body was filled with death qi. It was like he was turning into a corpse. Swallowing the pill, Nian waved his hand. It's fine. I won't die. It's just an occupational disease of my archaeology. This is clearly the invasion of corpse poison. You've been within tombs for too long, and the corpse poison has even invaded your soul. If this continues, you'll lose your life. Long Chen shook his head gravely. Fuck, isn't it all because of that idiot Feng? Originally, this corpse poison was only irritable and I couldn't erase it, but it wasn't able to cause me any harm. In fact, I could even give some of it to others when I wanted to. But that Feng kept attacking me. We have fought 3 battles since entering the yin-yang world without deciding a winner, but each time, the corpse poison would flare up. The 3rd flare was especially bad. But it's fine, my body already has a certain resistance to the corpse poison, and as long as I have time, I can slowly erase it. This time, I was just unlucky. I found a good place but ended up encountering that Feng again. With the corpse poison still flaring, I had to run. He wanted the treasures from that place, so he sent some troops to irritate me. It's fortunate you came, or I really might have died, said Nian hatefully. You found a good place but were driven away by Feng? Exactly. Let me tell you, based on my years of grave-dig archaeology, I'm sure that place is an absolute treasure, declared Nian. It's just that I can't suppress my corpse poison yet. Otherwise, if the 2 of us went, we'd annihilate them. Your corpse poison, I have a way to get rid of it. You'll have to endure some pain though. Long Chen placed a hand on Nian's back. You can do that? This is no ordinary corpse poison. It's a kind of defense left behind by some terrifying experts after they died. It contains their will from when they were alive. Thunder force suddenly surged out of Long Chen's hand and into Nian's body. Nian's hair stood on end, and his eyes almost popped out. How can your thunder force be so domineering? Exclaimed Nian. He found that this thunder force was erasing the will within the corpse poison. It was like snow melting in the sunlight. My thunder force comes from tribulation lightning and is perfect for erasing your corpse poison. Endure it. It will definitely cause you some harm while expelling the corpse poison, said Long Chen. It's fine, This bit of pain is nothing to me. If I make a sound, it'll count as my loss. Nian suddenly let out a cry as Long Chen's thunder force transformed into needles that stabbed his spiritual sea. That intense pain came out of nowhere. You lost. Fuck, you're still a conner, raged Nian. You're the one who started bragging first. Doesn't hitting your own face hurt? Laughed Long Chen. This was a reprisal for Nian for saying his face was thicker. Long Chen's thunder force worked quickly. The thunder force itself was unable to erase the corpse poison, but it wiped away the will contained within it. With the will within it gone, it was easy for Nian to get rid of the corpse poison. Consuming 2 pills Long Chen refined for him, the corpse poison was quickly expelled. He then focused on healing his injuries. Haha, I, Nian, am resurrected. Feng, just wait, I'm going to beat your ass. Let's go. As soon as Nian was recovered, he dragged Long Chen off in a certain direction. Long Chen and Nian rushed off. Long Chen asked, "You fought with Feng. How strong is he?" Long Chen didn't know anything about Feng's power. All he knew was that he was one of Long's sons, Xian's big brother. He was also the secret successor of the ancient family alliance. As they would be mortal enemies, learning a bit more about him would be good. He's very powerful, almost frighteningly so. Having fought him 3 times, I know he was still hiding some powerful trump cards. Without absolute assurance in killing me, he refused to expose his trump cards. Furthermore, he is the secret weapon that Long cultivated. He's someone created through all the resources of the ancient family alliance, and he has at least 3 top-grade divine items. If you encounter him, you have to be careful. He's also someone who schemes deeply, and he's ruthless. He's a very dangerous person, said Nian. In their 3 battles, while it looked like they had used up everything, he knew that Feng had held back. As for himself, because of having to divert power to fight Feng, the energy he had been using to suppress the corpse poison had weakened, causing it to flare up. In the end, Feng hadn't hunted him down personally because he had found a place of supreme treasures. Otherwise, he would very likely be a corpse. Now that Nian's corpse poison was cured, he would no longer be distracted by it. However, there was no real way to determine which of them was stronger, and Nian was not confident in beating Feng. He was truly powerful. You had 3 battles with him already? And then the 4th time you ran into each other, your corpse poison was flaring? It seems Heavenly Fate Island has also been scheming against you, said Long Chen. What? Now that you say that, I understand. I was always wondering how Feng and I managed to run into each other 4 times in a place as large as the Yin-Yang world. So it was caused by those bastards from Heavenly Fate Island, said Nian hatefully. Are your grandpa and the others doing well? Asked Long Chen. They're all well. They're in a very hidden and safe place. No one can find them. That place is special and isolates them from the lines of fate. Even Heavenly Fate Island can't find them, said Nian. Long Chen nodded. It was good that they were safe. However, why didn't Feng target you instead? You killed his little brother and slapped his father in the face. His enmity with you is greater than with me. Nian suddenly looked at Long Chen. Because your face is bigger. It's definitely because that bastard thinks I'm an easier target. The ancient family alliance is in chaos because of me, so he wants to kill me to put himself in a perfect position to succeed his father as their leader. Tell me, why do you spend all day grave robbing? Asked Long Chen. He was curious. Was such a thing addicting? Satisfying? It's archaeology, corrected Nian. Fine, even if it's archaeology, why are you doing it? I have no choice. You probably have heard that my family was the leader of the ancient family alliance. However, the family relied on underhanded methods to get the other ancient families to betray us. They usurped us, and one of their main goals was our inherited divine item, the 5-element sun-hunting bow. In truth, after that battle for power, my family was almost destroyed. Only some of the branches managed to escape, and they concealed their identities, hiding throughout the land. However, the great power of the 5-element sun-hunting bow that was unleashed in that battle threw the lines of fate into chaos, so no one could read where we went. Due to exhausting all of its power, the 5-element sun-hunting bow fell into a deep slumber. It was secretly buried in our ancestral lands, waiting for a descendant to awaken it. It was only upon obtaining the 5-element sun-hunting bow that I realized that when it unleashed its divine power back then, it not only screened us from the lines of fate, but also buried a portion of its power within the strongest experts present at the time. Those experts weren't aware of it, but it wasn't long before they all died one by one. Even in death, they didn't realize that they were dying because of the divine seed that the 5-element sun-hunting bow had buried within them. Those people were the top experts of their time. When they died, they were buried in their families' ancestral tombs. You should know that the large families always place their ancestral lands in the places with the best feng shui. That's to condense more karmic luck for their descendants. However, they didn't know that their ancestors' heroic spirits were consumed by the divine seeds, turning their ancestors' corpses into fertilizer. Those divine seeds sucked away the karmic luck within those tombs to strengthen themselves. In order to allow the 5-element sun-hunting bow to recover its strength, I need to slowly absorb those divine seeds. That's why I have to go grave robbing, perform archaeology. At first, I didn't have much experience, so I dug a lot of useless holes. Later, I learned more and worked hard. My technique improved, and the facts prove that as long as a person works hard, they can master anything. Now, my technique is practically perfect. Furthermore, I have great attainments and rich practical experience when it comes to the art of archaeology. It seems we've gone off topic. Let's get back to it, said Long Chen. This fellow's eyes always lit up when he brought up grave robbing. Later, I excavated the corpses of the people who had surrounded my Mo family back then. I used the 5-element sun-hunting bow to absorb the divine seeds, allowing it to gradually recover. That's why I've been focused on researching the field of archaeology all these years. Through my work, I can recover the lost inheritances and history of the cultivation world, said Nian proudly. To turn robbing tombs into such an outstanding line of work, perhaps only you are capable of that, said Long Chen. I knew that you wouldn't understand my archaeology. But I don't blame you. Nian laughed, seemingly undaunted by Long Chen's words. Long Chen's mouth curled, but inside he was filled with shock. So the 5-element sun-hunting bow had sent its power throughout its enemies, and by having someone in the future excavate their tombs, it was possible to take revenge and obtain benefits. By scattering those seeds and reaping them when they were ripe, it was possible to get a huge return. That was a big move. His predecessors had planted the trees, while Nian was reaping the benefits. Was it a coincidence? Or had the Mo family's ancestors really calculated that things would turn out this way? If it was the latter, then their scheming ability was terrifying. If they had even managed to calculate the timing of the great era coming, then it would be even more terrifying. This kind of scheming was even more amazing than Heavenly Fate Islands. It looked like a coincidence, but if the Mo family had not meticulously arranged for all of this, it was impossible for there to be such a result. If the Mo family had been suddenly struck by a sneak attack and rushed, how could they plan things so perfectly? However, if they had known about the attack and prepared such a perfect backup plan, why hadn't they resolved the danger in the first place? Why allow the Mo family to be damaged to such an extent? It seemed somewhat contradictory. It seemed that even Nian didn't know what his ancestors were thinking back then. Right now, his main goal was to continue robbing tombs to absorb those divine seeds, restoring the divine power of the 5-element sun-hunting bow. Long Chen, I should tell you that I noticed a treasured land of great feng shui. There are 9 dragon veins in the surroundings. It is a supreme place where the karmic luck of 9 dragon veins gathered to one place. Furthermore, a natural mountain passage leads into it, while its back is against a beautiful pool. It is clearly a blessed land, but actually, within this peaceful appearance lies a trace. Stop talking about things I can't understand. Even if it is a land of treasures, Feng entered before us. Any treasures would have been taken away by him. If we rush over, perhaps we can do something, but if you keep yapping, things will be over by the time we get there, said Long Chen. Feng? Nian snorted disdainfully. That fellow knows nothing of archaeology. Figuring out that place will definitely take him a few days. We should have time. The two of them flew quickly. Suddenly, they heard muffled sounds in the distance, and the ground shook slightly. What's going on? Could Feng be trying to rely on brute force? Nian's expression changed. They weren't far from the place he wanted to go, so this shaking made him uneasy. The two of them flew toward the sound, and they quickly saw explosions of divine light. There were experts fighting. Demon woman, let's see where you run this time. It's Feng, exclaimed Nian. Long Chen was also startled, and he quickly saw a mass of people surrounding a battlefield. At the center of the battlefield was a large man wearing a golden crown on his head. He was fighting barehanded against a woman, actually receiving a divine item's attacks without a weapon. The woman didn't have a manifestation, but there was a divine mark on her forehead, giving her endless energy. Each slash of her sword made a tearing sound, as if space was a cloth being torn apart. However, even going all out, that woman was suppressed by the barehanded man. That man clearly hadn't used his full power yet. It's someone from the original devil race? Wondered Nian. When Long Chen saw that woman, his heart pounded. That woman was Yu Shaoqian, and she was currently facing Feng. Feng had actually forced her to the point of unleashing the mark of the original devil race, exposing her status. Attack together to kill Feng. Long Chen had already shot off. All right. Nian didn't care too much. As soon as it came to killing Feng, he was energized. A 5-colored arrow shot out of the 5-element sun-hunting bow. The arrow had just left his bow when it almost instantly reached Feng many miles away. Feng was fighting intensely against Yu Shaoqian, but he wasn't using his full power. He had seen that Yu Shaoqian's status could not be low within the original devil race, so he wanted to capture her alive. He hoped to learn the whereabouts of the original devil race from her. The original devil race was the enemy of the entire continent. If he could really obtain the location of their headquarters, he could gather a giant force to annihilate them. He also knew that Long Chen had a definite relationship with the original devil race, but they had never managed to find any proof. If he could capture Yu Shaoqian alive, then it didn't matter whether or not Long Chen admitted it. He had plenty of proof, or at least ways to make proof that Long Chen was the puppet of the original devil race, that he had betrayed the human race. Then Long Chen would also become the enemy of the whole continent, and even anyone related to Long Chen would be annihilated. That was why he didn't want to use his full power. He wanted to find a chance to capture her alive. For him to defeat her wasn't very difficult. The current Yu Shaoqian was in a strange condition and unable to disguise herself as an Empyrean. Since she was also unable to use heavenly Tao energy, she was relying entirely on her divine mark. However, this place was not the skyscraping world. Although she wasn't suppressed here, she wasn't supported either. So she was at an immense disadvantage fighting here. Despite that, her power was still extremely great. To capture her alive was something even Feng couldn't do without an opportunity. Suddenly, Feng's expression changed. He swung his arm, and a spear emitting an ancient aura appeared, stabbing behind him. Boom! Nian's arrow struck the spear, causing a huge explosion. The surrounding experts jumped in fright. They all turned to see who had attacked, but all they saw was a streak of lightning. A saber pierced through the air, and it was like all the killing intent in the world had been condensed within it. Feng had no choice but to give up on Yu Shaoqian. His spear faced Long Chen's evil moon. Boom! Long Chen's spear contained the power he had been accumulating on his way rushing over. He crashed into Feng like a shooting star. Before this, Nian's aura had only knocked Feng back. But Long Chen's saber sent Feng flying into the distance. The air Feng passed through rumbled. It was like space was unable to bear the impact, and Feng was unable to stabilize himself. Long Chen was truly infuriated. He wouldn't allow anyone to attack his women. Long Chen was covered in dragon scales, his divine ring was spinning behind him, and 5 stars revolved in his eyes. Feng was startled, having never encountered such explosive power. His manifestation appeared behind him as he attempted to stabilize himself. However, space continued to rumble as if it was about to explode. He was unable to force Long Qin off. "It's you!" Feng finally recognized Long Qin. "How dare you injure my brother? I'll make sure to get justice for him," shouted Long Qin, killing intent overflowing out of him. Nian was startled. Since when had this fellow been such an upholder of justice? No, he was definitely just using him. When Nian saw Yu Xiaoqian's expression, he instantly realized that Long Qin was making an excuse for himself. Suddenly, Long Qin sent out a kick at Feng's abdomen. Feng snorted and also sent a kick to meet Long Qin's attack. Both their bodies shook. But just at this moment, a ray of light pierced through the air, instantly reaching Feng. Feng had no choice but to twist his body away, and the arrow narrowly flew by his cheek. However, Feng's expression was still calm. He was already familiar with Nian's attacks. After dodging Nian's attack, Feng's spear lit up, about to unleash an attack to force Long Qin away. Now that Long Qin was at such a close range, he was unable to unleash the full abilities of his spear. However, just as he did this, a hand came from a strange angle and smacked him in the face. Feng had managed to dodge Nian's arrow, but he wasn't able to dodge Long Qin's slap, which was timed perfectly with the arrow. As a result, Long Qin sent him flying away. The sound of this slap resounded through the air, shocking the surrounding experts. "What? How is that possible?" Hundreds of experts stared in dumbfounded shock. Their jaws dropped. Even having personally witnessed it, they couldn't quite believe it. The future leader of the ancient family alliance, a peak expert, had actually been slapped in the face. Heavens, isn't that Long Qin? And that's Nian. Someone finally reacted. Weapons began to blaze with light as hundreds of experts prepared to activate their divine items to kill Long Qin and Nian. However, the majority of them went after Nian. One reason was because they were confident that Feng could kill Long Qin on his own, while another was that they hated Nian more. The majority of the experts here were from the ancient family alliance. All of them had a deep enmity with Nian. "Long Qin die!" Feng suddenly roared. The sound waves alone were like a giant wave crashing through the world. He was fully infuriated. His manifestation changed, and a crowned figure appeared within it. That figure's hands were in a seal, and divine light flowed out the seal. When its palms separated, they actually opened a gate before it. Immortal light flowed out of the gate and into Feng's body. With the support of this immortal light, Feng seemed to become an immortal king. He looked both wise and powerful. However, his aura didn't match with his sinister expression. "Die!" Feng's spear pierced through the air at Long Qin. Immortal light sealed heaven and earth. Boom! Long Qin slashed Evil Moon at the spear while also dodging to the side. As a result, his saber image instantly shattered. Although he managed to avoid the spear, the shockwaves blew him back. He almost coughed up blood. This is a paragon art. Boom! Feng's spear tore through the ground, splitting the mountain range. The power of his attack was appalling. With Feng using a paragon art, Long Qin couldn't tarry. His Yuan spirit formed hand seals, and thunder force gathered throughout the world. Thunder rumbled and a berserk aura rose. Lightning filled the world, immersing Long Qin. Upon extending a hand, a lightning spear appeared in Long Qin's grasp. Bang! The two spears collided. Long Qin's lightning spear actually exploded. This is just a quasi-paragon art. You aren't even connected to another world's energy and are still suppressed by the laws of heaven and earth. You think that's enough to resist a true paragon art? What a joke, sneered Feng as he attacked again. Does your face not hurt? Sneered Long Qin, another lightning spear condensing in his hands. He once more threw it at Feng. Yet again his spear was shattered. Die! Feng's spear was merciless and pierced toward Long Qin. However, his expression quickly changed. Long Qin was now forming hand seals himself. A lightning dragon had appeared around him, and it formed a swirling lightning portal. As the portal was forced open, a torrent of terrifying lightning burst out of it, pouring into this world. Long Chen's lightning spear condensed once more. He smiled. When Long Chen connected to the Morning Dao lightning field, he felt a powerful surge of thunder force pouring into his body. He had limitless energy. His spear pierced forward, and the lightning domain behind him gave him immense power. This time, an ear-ringing explosion occurred when the two spears collided, blinding people. Both of them were blown back by the immense power. The instant those two spears collided, amongst the endless lightning, 72 dragon teeth silently pierced toward Feng. Feng was startled. Long Chen's attacks came one after another. He didn't even know when those dragon teeth had appeared, as they were hidden in the lightning. The huge figure within Feng's manifestation suddenly formed a hand seal, and rays of immortal light shot out like flying swords. As the dragon teeth collided with the flying swords, the void shook and exploded. Immortal light filled the battlefield, making it so people were unable to see what was going on. Feng suddenly let go of his spear. Floating in the air, he formed hand seals rapidly. The figure within his manifestation followed his movements exactly. As Feng formed those seals, his spear seemed to awaken. It blazed with light, and the immense power caused space to twist. The runes on the spear began to light up one by one according to some kind of sequence. When the final rune lit up, the spear grew in size, becoming a giant heavenly spear. Void-breaking Overlord Spear. When the spear's power reached a peak, the clash between the flying swords and dragon teeth was coming to an end. With a roar, Feng sent his giant spear piercing forward. Just as the spear shot forward, on the other side, the endless lightning domain also vanished. All that lightning had been compressed into one spear. Wild Lightning Soul Battle Spear. Long Chen also let out a shout as the two of them unleashed their strongest attacks at the same time. Boom. The two spears collided in the air, and then it was like the world exploded. Endless divine light exploded. Long Chen and Feng both coughed up a mouthful of blood. Cracks covered their entire bodies as they were almost blown apart by that terrifying power. Again! Long Chen roared, and thunder force condensed behind him. With his last attack, all the thunder force he had summoned had been used up. Now he summoned forth more power from his lightning world. A lightning spear rapidly condensed in his hand. Thunder force surged out of the portal behind him. Wild Lightning Soul Battle Spear. Long Chen launched an attack once more, just as berserk as the last, an attack with the power to destroy the land. In fact, it was even stronger than his first attack. Feng snorted. He also unleashed the same attack as before. A powerful explosion shook the world again. This was a clash of brute power between paragon arts. It was the simplest collision. Yet again, the two of them were sent flying and coughed up blood. Again! Long Chen let out a crazy roar. A new lightning spear was born in his hand. What the fuck? What's he doing? Even Nian jumped in shock as he crazily blocked the attacks of the other experts. Long Chen was being truly vicious right at the start. Yu Xiaoqian's sword was dancing in the air as she blocked a portion of the expert's attacks. She kept an eye on Long Chen. Long Chen looked like a furious battle god. The sight of him like that made her emotional. This viciousness toward Feng was because of her. She couldn't help being moved, especially since this person going crazy to protect her was also the person that she loved. Boom. A third clash of paragon arts exploded. The world had been ruined beyond recognition. The ground was turned to rubble, and lava spurted out in various places. Those experts that had come with Feng were pale with fright. Now they were seeing the terror of the Eastern Wasteland's Demon King. Right off the bat, Long Chen unleashed his strongest attack over and over again. That kind of undefeatable will gave them chills. Again! Long Chen extended a hand, and another lightning spear appeared in his hand. Feng's expression finally changed. After 3 intense clashes, he couldn't hold on. He didn't have Long Chen's powerful physical body anymore, and his body would be in danger of exploding. Feng formed rapid hand seals and flew back. The figure in his manifestation clapped its hands together. Rays of immortal light shot out of it in an attempt to interrupt Long Chen's paragon art. Long Chen snorted, and 72 dragon teeth appeared in front of him. Those rays of immortal light exploded upon contact with them, unable to break through. Wild Lightning Soul Battle Spear. The lightning spear once more shot out. The immortal light crumbled in front of it. Feng rapidly formed hand seals as he retreated, unleashing more divine light to form barriers in front of him. The lightning blasted through his immortal light. Feng had summoned 27 barriers, all of which were destroyed by the lightning spear. However, it was also starting to dim. Finally, Feng stabbed his spear forward. After having most of its energy exhausted, the lightning spear was easily dealt with. The powerful paragon art was handled just like that. You've fallen for it. Suddenly, a grim voice rang out behind Feng. A wild lightning spear stabbed toward his back. Feng was shocked. At some point, Long Chen had appeared behind him, so he hastily swept his spear toward Long Chen. Divine power raged. He had actually activated the power of his divine item. However, what Feng hadn't expected was that this lightning spear was actually incredibly weak. It lacked any power. It was like he had smashed an egg with his spear. There was no resistance at all. Not good. Feng's expression completely changed. He sensed something behind him, but he had no time to look back. Boom! A lightning spear silently pierced his back. It struck him directly, and the lightning spear's power exploded like a volcano. A powerful explosion rocked the sky, smashing Feng into the ground like a meteor. Feng coughed up 3 large mouthfuls of blood. His robes were wrecked, revealing a scale-like skin. That wasn't his skin but a tight-fitting armor. It looked like it was made of scales, but those scales were actually divine runes that interconnected. At this critical moment, Feng had activated this armor's divine power to block Long Chen's attack. If it hadn't been for it, he would have died. Before Feng could even stand up, a giant arrow shot toward him. Feng was startled and infuriated. He swung his spear in front of him, and his armor lit up. These 2 divine items were actually able to link together to form a great defensive shield. Boom! The arrow struck a shield of divine light, and the world shuddered. Feng once more coughed up blood and tumbled back. Just wait! Feng suddenly took out a golden jade talisman and crushed it. He gave one final glare at Long Chen and Nian. Boom! Long Chen's lightning spear and Nian's arrow both ended up missing. They struck the land, filling the sky with dust. Feng had used the jade talisman to flee. Kill Feng's dogs. Even with Feng having fled, Long Chen's gaze was cold. The thunder force behind him scattered. He sent the 72 dragon teeth to the appalled experts. Run! Those experts' expressions completely changed. Even Feng had fled. How could they resist both Nian and Long Chen? Experts fled in every direction, while Long Chen's dragon teeth cut them down. Nian also shot his arrows. Each of them took an expert's life. Miserable screams rang out. Divine items filled the air, and Long Chen flew back and forth, gathering them. Yu Shaoqian was standing to the side, not doing anything. Long Chen had already told her not to participate. In order to take the divine items, Long Chen was slower with his attacks. In the end, it was Nian killing people and Long Chen gathering the divine items. However, these people were very strong with powerful trump cards. Some of them were able to block one of the attacks of the dragon teeth, and some fled so quickly that they were gone in the blink of an eye. Everyone who had fled was gone, while those who hadn't fled would never be going anywhere. Only then did Long Chen slowly come to Yu Shaoqian's side. Sorry, I might have implicated you, apologized Yu Shaoqian. This time, she might have caused a huge calamity. Long Chen would be hunted down by the entire world. How did you implicate me? By the way, who are you? I wasn't fighting just now because you're beautiful, but as vengeance for my brother. I'm a particularly righteous man. For my brother, I would stab myself, and for a beauty, I would stab my brother. Beauty, do you want to try it? As long as you kiss me, I'll demonstrate it right now. Long Chen smiled. You bastard, we barely reunited and you do this to me? Shameless. Cursed Nian. Yu Shaoqian was crying but smiling as well hearing his words. This was why Long Chen had shouted that he was getting revenge for Nian at the start. He had arranged his way out from the beginning. If someone said that he was colluding with the original devil race, he would refuse to admit it and say that it was for Nian. He would say that he had no idea who she was. Although his enemies wouldn't believe it, Long Chen was already familiar with this move. Let me introduce you. This is my best friend, Nian. Just like me, he's an evil fellow, said Long Chen. Miss, don't listen to his nonsense. I'm actually a good person, Nian quibbled. Do you even believe yourself? Would a good person go grave digging every day? Snorted Long Chen. At least, it's better than you tricking someone into drinking bull milk. He drank it himself. It has nothing to do with me. All right, I won't waste my time with you. We're not far from the treasures. Let's talk while we walk. Nian pointed in a direction. The three of them set off, and Long Chen asked how Yu Shaoqian had encountered Feng. The truth was that Yu Shaoqian had also sensed that this place's terrain was special. She felt it was likely a giant tomb with some terrifying existence buried within it. That was why she had entered. Who would have thought that as soon as she entered, she would encounter Feng and the others who were at a loss. They had been wondering how to get in. She had tried to slip away, but Feng had noticed her and wanted her to stay behind. As a result, she was forced to expose her divine mark to keep him at bay, exposing her identity. If Long Chen and Nian hadn't come, she would have been forced to kill herself. This was also one reason why Long Chen was so infuriated. He knew that Yu Shaoqian would rather die than let others learn the secrets of the original devil race from her body. That would bring a calamity to the original devil race. We've arrived. Now, how do we get in? They arrived at a giant, man-made cave in a mountain. Wait, I suddenly have a brazen idea. Long Chen suddenly had an evil thought. You mean we should arrange something special? Nian's eyes lit up. What do you think? Long Chen wriggled his eyebrows. The main thing is that I don't have anything good, said Nian helplessly. What about this? Long Chen took out the blazing dragon cauldron. There were quite a few giant ants trapped within it. My God, heaven-devouring ants. Do you think they're enough? They're definitely enough. Nian was delighted as if he was looking at a treasure. What are you two talking about? Yu Shaoqian looked at Long Chen and Nian blankly. Long Chen said, if nothing unexpected happens to him, Feng will quickly return. We're thinking of preparing a welcoming gift for him. Feng had been at a disadvantage before, pressed from both sides by Long Chen and Nian. He had had no choice but to run. However, his injuries weren't too bad. The majority of the impact had been absorbed by his armor. His spiritual yuan would also quickly recover with his manifestation. Feng had entered this cave, but he hadn't found the way deeper. He had been roaming the outside, which was how he had encountered Yu Shaoqian. He had wanted to capture her before continuing to research the cave. Before opening the cave, he was unwilling to leave. Long Chen's guess was that he would gather other experts. As long as he found another expert on his level, he would immediately rush back. With Long Chen and Nian both present, the scale of the battle would definitely be on a greater level if he returned. So Long Chen wanted to prepare something first. Any ideas on how to prepare it? Asked Nian. Long Chen shook his head. I'm sure you're better at traps. You've been doing archaeology for a long time, so you definitely know many mechanisms. You do it. All right then. Nian nodded and took out an elegant little trunk from his spatial ring. When he opened it, Long Chen saw countless unique tools. There were chisels, claws, axes, rulers, as well as runic seals, silk, etc. Are they all part of your profession? Asked Long Chen with surprise. But of course. As a pioneer of the archaeology world, the successor of the human race's inheritance, how could I not have this little bit of ability? Said Nian unashamedly. He took out a single strand of silk and pulled it over the ground. It's actually the runic silkworm's inscription silk? Exclaimed Yu Shaoqian. You know it. Now it was Nian's turn to be surprised. She even knew of such a thing from an isolated branch of knowledge. Longchen smiled. Yu Shaoqian was extremely erudite. This had always been one of the points he had admired about her. Seeing that Yu Shaoqian merely smiled faintly, Nian sensed that she didn't like talking, so he continued with his work. He slowly arranged the silk. This silk was very miraculous. When it met the ground, it actually merged into it. This silk was very precious. It needed to be branded with runes, and to brand runes to silk was a technique that had been lost with the years. Nian had found this kind of silk in ancient tombs. Fortunately, with the protection of the runes, these strands of silk hadn't corroded, so he could reuse them. In truth, Nian had learned many things from his years of grave robbing. Many experts liked to leave some of their inheritances within their tombs. Some of those inheritances were brought into their coffins. That was why some inheritances might be lost in the outside world but still exist within some ancient tombs. So Nian did have some truth to his words when he said that he was continuing lost cultivation culture. With Nian at work, Longchen pulled Yu Shaoqian to the side and asked her about the original devil race. Through her explanation, he learned that the original devil race was doing well. Their disciples were using the foreign magical beasts as whetstones for themselves. They were getting stronger day by day. Things were going even better than expected. The only worrisome thing was that even now, they hadn't managed to find any trace of Wild. It was unknown where that child had run off to. Yu Shaoqian hadn't been planning on entering the Yin-Yang world originally, but these were the directions of the Great Prophet. Only now did Longchen learn that the Great Prophet had passed on. However, before leaving, she had told Yu Shaoqian that she had to enter the Yin-Yang world. As for why, she hadn't said. The Great Prophet was already gone, so Yu Shaoqian could only follow her instructions. Hey, have you made some mistake? I'm working myself so hard, but you are flirting with a girl? Longchen, can you have some shame? Cursed Nian once he was about done. Yu Shaoqian immediately blushed, while Longchen indifferently shrugged. In just half an incense stick's worth of time, Nian was done. There were no signs left on the ground. Even with spiritual strength, it was impossible to sense anything odd. It went without saying that Nian was truly skilled at grave robbing. The threads of silk had merged with the earth. When a strong enough expert stepped into this region, they would be triggered. Longchen took out the heaven-devouring ants from the blazing dragon cauldron. Knocking them out one by one, he handed them to Nian. Nian took out a thumb-sized pot. That pot contained its own space, and he sent them inside. The heaven-devouring ants would be wrapped in runes when he moved them in, and they would rapidly shrink. After arranging that, Nian took out a stone tablet and placed it at the cave entrance. However, looking at it, he felt that it was lacking something. Longchen, you should say a few words, said Nian. What words? Whatever you think will anger Feng. Longchen thought about it and wrote a quick line with his finger. A line of bold words appeared. Feng, does your face hurt? Ha, Nian laughed. These words definitely contained killing power. Feng would go crazy as soon as he read it. Nian left a formation disc on the ground. Once the formation disc was activated, this place would be covered by an illusion, concealing the cave entrance. From a distance, it would be impossible to see anything odd about this place. This was because Nian was worried about someone other than Feng arriving first and activating the mechanism. Only Feng's group knew this exact location, so this illusion would only be unable to fool them. After arranging all this, the three of them walked into the cave. They reached the end in just a few miles. There was a giant stone wall at the end with ancient runes on it. Paths had already been forcibly created to the two sides of this stone wall. These idiots don't know anything. This place isn't the entrance. Even if they searched for a decade, they wouldn't be able to get in. As for the wall's formation runes, as long as they aren't suicidal, they wouldn't dare to attack it. Nian smiled. He suddenly took out a bizarre boat. The boat was 10 meters long and had a drill at the front. Come, get on. Mo Nian brought Long Qin and Yu Shaoqian aboard and then activated the boat. It began to dig straight down. The drill rapidly spun and pierced the ground. Amazing! Who would have thought that after a few years apart, Mo Nian would learn so much? Long Qin raised a thumbs up at him. Hee, this is what I used to eat. I should tell you that I've explored tens of thousands of ancient tombs now, and I've been busy every day. I can do over 10 on a good day, and it's all thanks to this little fellow. This place is a giant tomb, and the entrance should be 400 miles below here. This place is the life-facing gate. In ancient times, most large tombs were structured this way, said Mo Nian confidently. I don't think so. The runes on the wall are swallowtail runes, something that only appears at the end of the tombs. If that's the case, this place isn't the entrance but the exit. Most exits are located at the bottom of the tomb. A Yang tomb is different from a Yin tomb. Their entrances aren't the same, said Yu Shaoqian. What? You can read those runes? Mo Nian stared at Yu Shaoqian with absolute shock. He had seen such runes many times, but he had never learned their names. As they spoke, the boat pierced through the ground. They had already reached the location that Mo Nian had indicated. They were like rats digging into the ground. They used divine sense to probe their surroundings. It really isn't an entrance. Curious. Mo Nian felt himself blushing. He was actually mistaken. This isn't the martial heaven continent. The tombs aren't the same. Perhaps the master of this tomb isn't even human, said Yu Shaoqian to comfort him. That's reasonable. Then let's test things according to your theory, said Mo Nian. He continued controlling the boat to dig. Not long after, some explosions came from the rear of the flying boat, causing the earth to crumble. Long Qin smiled, knowing that Mo Nian was making it more difficult for anyone who followed them. The pressure of this giant tomb greatly limited their divine sense. If they tried to enter the tunnel Mo Nian had made, they would be forced to slow down. Every little bit could help stall them. They continued descending for 2 hours, not even knowing how many miles they had gone. In any case, even Mo Nian's boat was starting to find it taxing. However, Mo Nian finally managed to see some familiar runes. He knew that they were approaching a way into the tomb. Putting away the flying boat, Mo Nian touched the runes. After examining them and searching some more, he actually found a stone gate. He took out a talisman and placed it on the gate. What? Is this to ward off evil? Asked Long Qin. Tisich, what evil? This place is the exit, so for us to enter from here requires going against the flow. Considering how old this tomb could be, who knows what's inside? Who knows how much baleful qi has accumulated? Those things could harm our Yuan spirits. I'm testing the concentration of baleful qi inside right now. There's actually very little. How curious. Well, be careful. I'm going to open the gate. Mo Nian took out 8 talismans and placed them in different locations. They made a strange picture on top of the stone gate. Open! Mo Nian let out a quiet cry. The 8 talismans lit up, and the gate's runes also lit up. Light flowed out like a spiderweb. The stone gate slowly opened. Less than an hour after Long Chen's group of 3 entered the ground, countless experts arrived. They were led by Feng, and beside him was a large expert. It was true immortal Jiaoqi of the Xian beasts. Furthermore, not far from true immortal Jiaoqi was a mysterious man wrapped in a black cloak that covered most of his face. His skin was pale like a woman's. He held a short staff just over a foot long. This man was one of the corrupt path's 3 kings, the one that Long Chen had not met yet. Speaking of Gui Can, he actually had a slight connection with Long Chen. The corrupt expert that Long Chen had previously slain, Gui Yen, had been a disciple of the same family as Gui Can. However, the 2 of them had never met. Other than the 3 of them, they brought over 2,000 other disciples. They were all powerful Empyreans, and they had completely locked this region down. Did they think a little illusion formation could block us? Sneered Gui Can. His voice was sharp, and it didn't sound like a man or a woman. It raised goosebumps. He waved his staff, and the air shook. The illusion faded away, revealing the true appearance of the cave. The 3 of them advanced. They had just approached the cave entrance when a flash of light came from within that caused them to raise their guard. However, after that flash of light, nothing else happened. Instead, a stone tablet appeared. Feng, does your face hurt? What does that mean? True immortal Jiaoqi frowned in confusion. Boom. Feng slammed the stone tablet with a hand, blowing it to bits. Feng was ashen. He knew that Long Chen and Nian were intentionally humiliating him. This stone tablet was no mechanism. They had made him lose face in front of everyone. The stone dust of the tablet spread through the air, covering everyone. It had the slightest odor to it. However, seeing how furious Feng was, no one said anything. They didn't know that danger had already enveloped them. True immortal Jiaoqi and Gui can also didn't say anything. They had clearly guessed something. Someone, go inside and take a look. If you find Long Chen and the others, don't attack. Send out a hidden transmission, ordered Feng darkly. A dozen experts immediately charged into the cave. They quickly found the cave that Nian had left. They followed the loose soil downward. Upon seeing that path, Feng's expression improved slightly. At the very least, this meant that Long Chen and Nian were searching for the treasures. With such an army searching for the two of them, they wouldn't be able to escape. When they saw that Nian had purposely erased their path to stall them, Feng was even more at ease. This was perfect. It meant Nian was still rushing and trying to slow them down. They quickly dug down, eventually finding the gate to the tomb. Feng smiled cruelly. True immortal Jiaoqi and Gui can also smiled. Their biggest goal in coming to the yin-yang world was Long Chen. Now they had finally trapped him. How could they not be delighted? True immortal Jiaoqi was especially delighted. Last time, he hadn't managed to get a single feather in the nest. He had even been attacked by black hands protecting the nest and had almost been killed. His hatred of Long Chen had reached a peak. Let's go. Has Long Chen jumped into his own tomb? Feng led the path into the gate. The stone gate slowly opened for Long Chen's group of three. What greeted them wasn't an aura of death and decay. Instead, the air was tranquil and vibrant. Following the path, they saw a verdant forest in just a few miles. Birdsong and wildflowers were everywhere. It was a land of beauty. This is actually its own world, exclaimed Nian. Even with all his experience, this was his first time encountering such a scenario. This kind of minor world should normally collapse after the death of its master, but there is one scenario that can let it exist for longer, said Yu Shaoqian as she looked around. By burying everything within the minor world, turning it into a natural cycle of the heavenly Daos, said Long Chen, his heart skipping a beat. Yes, most likely. Otherwise, this kind of minor world would not be able to exist on its own, and all life within it would have withered. The master of the tomb created their own cycle of reincarnation, allowing life to die and be born again. They exist within an unending cycle, said Yu Shaoqian. Yu Shaoqian knelt down and extended a hand to a squirrel carrying an acorn. It looked at her curiously and actually jumped onto her hand. However, just as Yu Shaoqian was going to gently pet it, it nimbly jumped away, vanishing amongst the trees. Continuing deeper, they arrived at a lake. There was a floating bridge leading to an island on the lake. There was only one path through this minor world, and the three of them followed it. When they approached the lake, Yu Shaoqian's expression suddenly changed. She hastily shouted, "It's heaven-flowing sacred water. Be careful." Boom. However, her warning was too late. Long Chen had already stepped onto the bridge. Huge ripples spread through the lake, and Long Chen immediately became still. Nian was startled. He was about to pull Long Chen back when Yu Shaoqian stopped him. It's useless. He's already activated the heaven-flowing sacred water. He is seeing the future now. What? It's possible to see the future? Exclaimed Nian. Yes. This expert was most likely someone proficient in the heavenly fate Tao. After dying, they merged their soul with this world, having this world enter its own reincarnation cycle. It can count as an undying state. This heaven-flowing sacred water is like a mirror. If you aren't on guard, you might see your future. For a person to see their own future can cause the collapse of their Tao heart. I wonder how Long Qin is doing. Yu Shaoqian was a bit worried. The significance of life was that it was full of possibilities, full of unknowns. People thirsted to learn the future, but once they knew it, there was no longer any delight in living. When a person learned how and when they were going to die, it might dishearten them completely, which could be a fatal blow to one's Tao heart, which was why people should never try to read their future. Once they did, they would lose their drive and end up completely crippled. Then let me see who my future wife is. That should be no problem. Nian smiled and actually spread his consciousness toward the lake. Once again, ripples spread across the lake. Nian was suddenly filled with bitterness. It's over. There's no hope for me in this lifetime. Suddenly, the lake erupted and 9 whirlpools appeared, making Nian and Yu Shaoqian jump. Those 9 whirlpools caused the lake water to rapidly sink. In just a breath, all the water vanished. At this point, Long Qin slowly opened his eyes with a smile. What is it? Are you fated to be a bachelor for this lifetime? Fuck off. How could a handsome man like me end up being a bachelor forever? Oh, you're all right? Asked Nian. Were you worried? Long Qin shook his head. Did you not see the end of your life? Asked Yu Shaoqian. Without any guard, everyone would long to know their future. They wanted to know how long they would live and how they would die. I did. I saw endless darkness, endless death, a world of eternal darkness without the slightest shred of light. Did I need it to help me see that? Once people are dead, their eyes stop working, so isn't it naturally pitch black? I was hoping to see more through the darkness, but then everything vanished, said Long Qin helplessly. Hearing that, Yu Shaoqian sighed with relief. The thing she had been worried about the most was Long Qin seeing his own death, or seeing his brothers and lovers die. That would become a nightmare for him. Nian, what did you? Asked Long Qin. Lu Zongying, said Nian bitterly. Both of you are childhood sweethearts. Isn't ending up together very good? Why be so sad? The main thing is I'll only have her in this lifetime. My dreams of having 3 concubines and 4 wives are over. Cried Nian. Is such a matter worth crying over? Long Qin shook his head. That's easy for you to say. You have women to hold on your left and right. I, on the other hand, get beaten all day. Don't cry. This is a tomb, and you're not a descendant of the person buried inside, said Long Qin. We're at the end of the path. Where should we go? How am I supposed to know? This isn't the structure a tomb should have. It's all messed up. Let's just walk around randomly. It seemed Nian had not yet recovered from the impact. All right, fate is something you hold in your own hands. Something like this is just a scam used to trick children, said Long Qin. Did you really fall for it? That's right. My Mo family needs to grow and spread its wings. For my Mo family's future growth, I will definitely overcome my fate and marry even more women than you, declared Nian. It's my first time hearing someone capable of making sex sound so pure. Long Qin shook his head. The two of you should stop messing around. I can sense movement above us. Feng has probably returned, so we should hurry up, said Yu Shaoqian. We shouldn't view this place as a tomb. This place is clearly a garden. We should quickly look around and see if the senior left behind any inheritances. Furthermore, there are no mechanisms here, so the master of the tomb is clearly waiting for a destined person to enter. We should see which one of us is that destined person. Long Qin and Nian became more serious. The 3 of them spread out, flying around. However, their surroundings were just mountains and lakes. Everything was thriving with life. They didn't see anything special. There's a building up ahead. Suddenly they saw a tall mountain. Clouds revolved around the mountain. They could vaguely see a palace within the clouds. The exterior of the palace was simple and elegant. It was 300 meters tall and was built at the peak of the mountain. It was surrounded by immortal mist, and there was a certain sound coming from within it. It seemed to be the music of a grand Tao. The 3 of them hastily rushed over to the palace. When they were standing in front of it, they found that every brick and tile had runes flowing through them. It was a majestic and grand sight. These are formation runes that lead to the outside world. They're absorbing some of the outside world's energy to maintain this world's reincarnation. Clearly, the master of this world was not at the level of creating a completely independent and complete world, said Yu Shaoqian after examining the runes. Nian and Long Qin nodded. This palace was emitting an aura identical to the outside world. It was absorbing the outside world's energy to nourish this world. This was why the master of this world had placed this minor world within a place of such great feng shui. They walked over to the gates and found that no matter how they pushed, they couldn't open them. There was a vast energy preventing them from entering. This is troublesome. These gates have a mechanism, and it requires a huge amount of pure spiritual yuan to open. The three of us combined don't have enough spiritual yuan, said Nian after studying the runes. Yu Shaoqian nodded. These are the 9 Drake gate locking runes. To open the gates requires a huge amount of spiritual yuan, and there's no way the three of us have close to enough. I've got it. Long Chen and Nian looked around. Their sights fell on 2 divine statues. A wicked chuckle rang out. Feng, true immortal Jiaoqi, Guikan, and all the experts that they had brought charged into this minor world. As soon as they entered, they were dumbfounded. They had thought that this place was a tomb, but it actually appeared full of life. When they arrived at the bridge, someone said, "There used to be a lake here, but the water's gone." It seems that Nian and Long Chen have already taken it. It doesn't matter. They'll have to spit it out in the end. We've already placed a formation on the exit. They won't be able to escape, sneered someone else. Other than Feng, true immortal Jiaoqi, and Guikan, there were 2,400 Empyreans. They were all experts amongst experts, on the level of Empyreans who had begun awakening their manifestations. Long Chen and Nian would only be faced with death once they were surrounded. These people were mostly Feng, true immortal Jiaoqi, and Guikan's followers. The three of them viewed these people with favor, so their power was definitely great. Not only was there a grand formation protecting the place that they had entered from, but there were 300 experts left guarding it. Even a fly wouldn't be able to escape. Let's go. We won't let those bastards ruin the treasures. Feng, true immortal Jiaoqi, and Guikan rapidly advanced and quickly saw the palace. With a shout, all the experts surrounded it. They had just arrived when a beam of divine light soared into the sky from the palace. It was like it had sensed their arrival and come to life. Feng, true immortal Jiaoqi, and Guikan immediately became still, circulating their spiritual yuan in defense. Unbeknownst to them, Yu Shaoqian was on top of the 2 mythological beast statues in front of the gates to the palace. The devil character was shining on her forehead, and the light from it enveloped her, Long Chen, and Nian. She was using a secret art of the original devil race to conceal them. Nian's hands were pressed against one of the statues. His spiritual yuan activated its divine runes, causing the palace to light up. It was like the palace was greeting the newcomers. The Grand Tao is formless. The Grand Tao is emotionless. Those who pass these gates must have destiny. The formless Grand Tao shines brightly at its end. The emotionless Grand Tao is one and separate. Feng, true immortal Jiaoqi, and Guikan had just arrived when divine chanting filled the air. The music of a Grand Tao rang out. The voice continued to ring out through the air. Those who pass my gates must show their karma. Good or evil, right or wrong, Nian was constantly sending spiritual yuan into the statue. As he watched Long Chen spout nonsense to con these people, he almost laughed. Despite knowing it was clearly a con, he almost believed it himself. On the other hand, Yu Shaoqian was tense. If these people noticed something off, the three of them would be doomed. Long Chen's voice was not actually his own. It was going through the heaven-flipping seal, making the voice deeper, stronger, and divine-sounding. A few experts immediately tried to push open the gates. As a result, the gates' runes lit up, forcing them back. Just at this moment, Long Chen's divine voice rang out once more. The destined people have already entered. Others are lacking destiny and require spiritual yuan to activate the 9 Drake gate-locking runes. If you cannot open the gates, then you have no destiny at all. If you can open the gates, Be devout of heart and pay respects to the divine statues to accept your blessing. 9 Drake Gate Locking Runes? Those are ancient type divine runes. They require a huge amount of spiritual yuan to open, said an expert from the Ancient Family Alliance. It seems Long Chen and Nian have already entered. We can't wait any longer. If the two of them obtain a complete inheritance and gain the protection of the tomb, it will be difficult to kill them here, said Qilin darkly. Feng frowned. He felt like something was off, but he couldn't say what exactly. True Immortal Jiaoqi waved his hand, and the experts from his side came out. The first one pressed his hand against the stone gate, while the second pressed his hand against the back of that person. Forming a chain, all those experts began to pour their spiritual yuan in. Following them, Guiken's experts also took action. Seeing that, Feng could only gesture to his subordinates to follow along. Other than their own followers, others had also come. Those people had come with the purpose of killing the experts stubbornly clinging to the Martial Heaven Alliance out of loyalty. This was an opportunity to deliver a heavy blow to the Martial Heaven Alliance. As for the treasures, they would obtain them conveniently. Over 2,000 experts began pouring their spiritual yuan into the gates. Their runes lit up, growing brighter and brighter. With everyone working hard, the gates slowly began to shudder. More. The gates are about to open. Shockingly, these gates, which had looked to open left and right, were opening upward. The gates slowly began to rise. Why is it so slow? That person's voice quivered. Quite a few people were sweating. Their spiritual yuan was rapidly being sucked away. In just a couple breaths' time, they had used up the majority of their spiritual yuan. Activate your manifestations. All the experts activated their manifestations, sucking up the energy of heaven and earth to replenish their spiritual yuan. However, there were so many of them that there wasn't much energy for each of them to absorb. Hold on. It's about to open. There was almost a foot-thick opening now. A bit more and it would be possible to squeeze through. However, True Immortal Jiaoqi's expression was dark. His body was too big to enter such a small hole. When the opening was 2 feet wide, Feng and Guiken were capable of entering, but they didn't yet. It wasn't because they were righteous, but because they were worried that Long Chen and Nian were inside, waiting to sneak attack them. Waiting for all 3 of them to enter was safer. The experts were pale. Some of them were on the verge of collapse. Suddenly, a figure appeared out of midair, charging through the 3 feet wide opening. It's her! Upon seeing that figure, Feng's expression changed. He immediately recognized that it was Yu Shaoqian. Where do you think you're going? Yu Shaoqian had just entered when 2 figures rapidly followed. They were so fast that it was impossible to see their faces. Long Chen and Nian. Both True Immortal Jiaoqi and Feng let out startled cries upon recognizing them. It's been hard on you. Let me give you a gift as thanks. Nian laughed, his bow appearing in his hand. Boom. An arrow exploded in front of the gate. Those closest to the gates were directly blown to bits. With those experts slain, the others lost their connection to the gates, and the flow of spiritual yuan came to a stop. The gates instantly shut, shaking the entire palace. Bastards! We were duped! Feng clenched his teeth furiously. He had felt that something was wrong, and now he knew that Long Chen and Nian had been conning them. They had actually used all of them to open the gates and snuck in. Fuck! One of the Xian beast experts roared furiously. His divine hammer viciously struck the gates. Be careful! Feng's expression suddenly changed, but it was too late. Boom! Light exploded out of the gates. The divine item in that expert's hand exploded. The fragments of the divine item blasted through the surrounding experts. Their spiritual yuan was almost exhausted, and caught off guard, they were struck. Over 30 experts were slain by the fragments combined with the divine power of the gates. Feng, True Immortal Jiaoqi, and Guiken's expressions darkened. This was a naked insult. Have the people guarding the entrance come over. Also, send out a request for reinforcements. Feng gave orders grimly. He had to hurry. Long Chen and Emo Nian high-fived, laughing. They hadn't expected things to go so smoothly. Long Chen, this con of yours almost made me believe it too. Amazing, praised Emo Nian. It's all thanks to your cooperation. To make all the runes of the palace seem to echo my voice, that's really amazing. Long Chen chortled. Emo Nian's cooperation had made things practically seamless. It was only as good as you. You're too courteous. Ha! The two of them began to laugh again, as if they had just had a major victory. Seeing them like this, Yu Shaoqian also couldn't help smiling. These two were like children, acting like conning others was some particular accomplishment. Hee hee, I really want to see what the three of them look like now, said Emo Nian. That's right, who was that fellow who looked not man nor woman back there? Asked Long Chen. Emo Nian's lips curled. That fellow is Gui Can, one of the corrupt path's 3 kings. He's an irritating fellow. He specializes in spiritual attacks and is very difficult to deal with. I once had a fight with him, and he actually raises evil bugs within his body. I almost ended up vomiting. He's just that disgusting. Ugh, let's not talk about him, I can't bear it. Just be careful of his spiritual attacks. Long Chen nodded. So he was one of the corrupt path's 3 kings. No wonder he had been capable of standing alongside Feng and true immortal Jiaoqi. Now he had seen all of the 3 kings. Xie Luo Mingjie and Gui Can. It seemed that the corrupt path viewed killing him as a must this time. They had sent 3 experts on that level at once. As the 3 of them entered the palace, the originally dim palace suddenly lit up, revealing a statue. It was a statue of a thin man who looked to be a scholar. His face was relaxed and content, as if he stood aloof from the world of mortal affairs. It's an ascender, exclaimed Yu Shaoqian. The so-called ascenders were ones whose souls had left the coils of their mortal husks to become gods or immortals. This statue was surrounded by divine light, giving off a holy feeling. He almost looked like a real person, but his skin had a jade-like luster to it. Having entered my home, you must have destiny with me. It's nice to meet you, little friends. Suddenly, the statue transformed into motes of light. Within that light was the scholarly man. He looked alive and spoke to them. Long Chen, Emo Nian, and Yu Shaoqian all jumped, looking in shock at him. Senior, can I ask if you are an ascender? Asked Yu Shaoqian. Ascension? No, I didn't have the power to ascend. Because I was sick of everything about this world, I buried myself here. I left a portion of my inheritance, leaving a strand of my soul to guard it. What you are seeing is just a wisp of my soul, said the scholarly man. He smiled, but that smile seemed a bit forlorn. Senior, I heard someone say that ascension is a scam. Is that true? Asked Long Chen. The scholarly man looked at Long Chen calmly and didn't reply immediately. Instead, after a moment's observation, he suddenly smiled. So, a game breaker has come to my place. How unexpected. Then there's no need for any trial. I'll give you my inheritance. The scholarly man closed his eyes and suddenly transformed into golden dust that surged toward the top of the palace. From that location, a pillar of light descended right through the center of the palace. At the same time, chanting began to ring out. This is the profound spirit Taoist scripture. It can absorb heaven and earth's energy and transform it into any other kind of energy, exclaimed Yu Shaoqian. Long Chen was delighted. Then you should hurry and accept the inheritance. That way, you'll be able to use your full power even outside the skyscraping world. But, Yu Shaoqian looked at Emo Nian. She wasn't so shameless as to automatically accept this treasure. This kind of technique is useless to the two of us. You should hurry up, said Emo Nian. This cultivation technique truly didn't suit the two of them, but it was extremely important for her. Most importantly, she even knew the name and origins of this inheritance. She was clearly the best pick. Yu Shaoqian nodded and walked into that pillar of light. Soft light enveloped her. She sat down within it. Bursts of light transformed into a lotus flower throne for her to sit on, making her look like a goddess. Boom! Suddenly, the gates blew open. Feng, true immortal Jiaoqi, and Gui Can came charging in. Long Chen, Emo Nian, face your deaths. Furious roars rang out as powerful experts charged over to the two of them like an angry flood. There were over 3,000 of them now. They had sent out a call for reinforcements that had summoned all the nearby experts. These 3,000 experts had managed to fully open the gates and charge in. Upon seeing Yu Shaoqian within the light, their eyes turned green. Kill! Feng, true immortal Jiaoqi, and Qilin were about to unleash powerful attacks when they suddenly became still. Divine light had wrapped around their bodies, and their cultivation bases were sealed. They were unable to unleash any magical arts or battle skills. True immortal Jiaoqi had been the furthest. He had unleashed a powerful punch at Long Chen, and Long Chen had been planning on receiving it with his own fist. However, just as the two of them were about to clash, divine light enveloped and separated them. A no-fighting zone? Everyone was shocked. It was actually impossible to use martial might within this space. This kind of restriction was something they had only heard of in legends. One of the corrupt experts tried to charge into the pillar of light, but it rejected him, sending him flying away. There was no way to enter the light. Long Chen and Nian were delighted by this. They had been worried about others trying to disturb Yu Shaoqian, but now it seemed that they didn't need to worry about it. How coincidental to run into you here. Are you all doing well? Nian waved to Feng, true immortal Jiaoqi, and Qilin as if they were old friends. The three of them were ashen with suppressed fury. What coincidence! All of them had been conned outside. They wanted to tear Nian and Long Chen to pieces. Seeing them smiling so brightly, they felt like their lungs would explode. Long Chen, Nian, you're actually colluding with this demon woman of the original devil race in an attempt to topple my ancient family alliance. From today onward, there will be no place for you two on the martial heaven continent. Anyone related to you will be annihilated. I wonder if you'll still be able to smile then, shouted Feng. That's right, the martial heaven alliance might very well have participated in this collusion, and of course, there's no doubt that the Xiantian Dao sect was part of it. They must be destroyed, killed to the last, roared true immortal Jiaoqi. Following their lead, the other experts added in their own comments. Long Chen and Nian became the targets of everyone's criticism. You're so laughable, why can't I smile? The two of us chased down this expert from the original devil race for the safety of the martial heaven continent. We spilled so much blood and sweat, risking our lives to defeat her. To do this, we've crossed high mountains and deep lakes, torn our way through thistles and thorns, and finally trapped her here. Just as we're about to succeed, you come barging your way in? What, are you trying to take our success? Nice try, sneered Long Chen. Bullshit. You're clearly with that demon woman. You're the one spouting bullshit. Do you have any proof? Long Chen turned his nose up in disdain. Just the fact that you would save her is proof enough. When did I ever save her? I attacked Feng because he bullied my brother. It was revenge. Once Feng fled like a dog, we started chasing her down. Did you ever hear me say a word to her? Did you see me fight alongside her? No, you didn't, but did you see her enter first and us chase after her? People like us, handsome men overflowing with looks and intelligence, wisdom and heroism, loyalty and righteousness, style and elegance have actually been turned into fiends that want to topple the continent by your words. It seems all your hearts are filled with darkness, selfishness, wickedness, and resentment. To actually want to slander us, two brothers, the only thing that can be said is that you're all trash. Brother, your words are entirely correct. I'll testify for you. Don't worry, we won't be affected by such shaky evidence. No, it can't even be called evidence. Anyone who tries to slander us is insulting the concept of justice and committing blasphemy against the heavenly Daos, a betrayal against the martial heaven continent. It's being disrespectful to the gods. Nian was even more exaggerated, turning the two of them into godlike existences. Shut up. Who do you think you are to compare to gods? No matter what you say, the 3,000 of us all say that you are colluding with that woman of the original devil race. It's iron proof, roared an expert from the Xian beasts. He wanted to turn the two of them into pulp, but there was some kind of mysterious energy making it impossible for them to use martial force. Even their divine items were restricted. Otherwise, they would have long since torn through the two of them. Long Chen, no matter what lies you spout, it's useless. We all saw it, and that's our evidence. This is reality, and even if it's not the truth, it becomes the truth, sneered true immortal Jiaoqi. Did you record that? Asked Long Chen. Nian nodded. Yup, it's all recorded. Clearly, the two of them had just been waiting for true immortal Jiaoqi's words. This was admitting to framing them. Hearing this, true immortal Jiaoqi was infuriated. He had been used again. He was about to burst into curses when the entire palace shook. The pillar of light enveloping Yu Shaoqian grew even brighter. Within the pillar of light, Yu Shaoqian actually began to chant an ancient scripture. She had no control over the matter. As she chanted, her voice was like immortal music shaking people to their deepest core. Each of their minds quivered. At the same time, immortal runes began to appear in the air, echoing her voice. It was like a grand Tao had descended. It bathed people's souls, increasing their comprehension. This is a precious scripture. Quick, try to comprehend as much as you can. The experts present were delighted. Just hearing a few words had made them feel like their hearts had been purified. If they could comprehend any part of this scripture, it could benefit them endlessly. Long Chen looked at Yu Shaoqian. She was in a strange state, unaware of what was happening outside. By chanting the scripture, she was essentially making a portion of it public knowledge. Long Chen and Nian exchanged a glance. With a slight nod, Nian immediately began a loud ruckus. Fellow countrymen, young and old, during this special day, I will give you a grand display. Everyone, clap along. Shed your fetters and dance. As he spoke, Nian suddenly took out a string of bells, hanging it all over his body. These bells were actually a divine item he had obtained from a corrupt expert. He had a total of 18 bells. This divine item was used for bewildering other people's minds and souls. Each shake would release an ear-piercing sound straight into a person's soul. Nian had used quite a bit of effort killing that corrupt expert. Because these bells were too irritating, he had been unable to concentrate. He had ended up missing his first 2 shots before killing him with his 3rd arrow. After obtaining them, Nian hadn't known what to do with them. But now he knew. Nian began to dance, and it was less than impressive. He was like a spasming duck. The bells hanging off him released a sonorous sound that stabbed into people's ears like needles. Their heads became dizzy. Nian seemed uncontrollably excited and began to sing, beat the drums and strike the gongs. Let's all be happy. Today is such a beautiful day, a perfect day for dancing and singing. Nian wasn't a singer from the start. As soon as he opened his mouth, the rhythm and tune were so far off that they were in the eastern wasteland, but it seemed like he himself didn't notice at all. He was immersed in the delight of performance. As he sang, he was accompanied by Long Chen's special musical combination. He had an axe in his left hand and some claws in his right hand. He ground the claws against the axe, releasing a screeching sound. That sound was enough to make a person's soul flee from their body. Stop! People howled as they covered their ears. Let alone trying to comprehend the scripture, they even felt like their heads would explode. That's right, everyone stand and dance. We're all friends, so release your emotions. Scream and shout to your heart's desire. The heavenly Daos might be emotionless, but people aren't. Jump and dance. Everybody dance. Nian pointed at the infuriated experts, encouraging them. Dance! Dance! Nian sang and danced while Long Chen accompanied him. Long Chen's own body was quivering as he was almost unable to bear it. The sound of these claws dragging across the axe was not something an ordinary person could endure. However, seeing these people be so infuriated that their eyes were scarlet, Long Chen felt like everything was worth it. Their cooperation was practically a dance of devils, a wail of ghosts, and a howl of wolves. Other than Yu Shaoqian within the light pillar who wasn't affected, everyone else was going insane. Fuck, I'll go all out. Finally, someone lost their patience and charged at Long Chen. He wanted to snatch away the two divine items in his hands. The noise coming from them was enough to kill someone. After all, the rubbing of divine items contained its own divine power. Closing the senses was useless. That sound made people feel like there was a cat scratching the inside of their heads. It wasn't exactly painful or itchy, but it was enough to make people want to die. Over 10 experts charged over, wanting to put a stop to the two of them. However, as soon as they got close, they were forced back by a mysterious force. Finally, the atmosphere's getting better. Yes, just like this, dance and shout. Use your emotions to show the world your hot blood. Use your lives as a recollection of your lost innocence. Nian excitedly urged them on upon seeing them being blocked. Someone finally reached their limit and coughed up a mouthful of blood. These two were clearly trying to cause trouble, but there was nothing they could do. Long Chen, do you not want to hear the immortal scripture? No, it's fine if we don't hear it. It's all good as long as you do. The two of us will make sure to create the right environment, while the rest of you comprehend the scripture. No need to thank us, just do your best. We do it voluntarily, so there's no fee. Long Chen paused for a moment to say this before continuing his accompaniment. Bastards, I'll kill you. You pieces of shit, if you don't want to listen then fine, but how can you not let others listen? Furious roars rang out. That immortal scripture's significance was extremely great, capable of changing their lives. However, this opportunity was being ruined by Long Chen and Nian. The two of them completely ignored their rage, continuing to put on a performance that made them dizzy. They immersed themselves in the immortal music. Long Chen, the fact that we could become brothers was truly fortuitous. We work so well together, I feel like our music is even on the same level as the Zither fairies, said Nian proudly. When it comes to technique, we're still a bit inferior. But when it comes to pure innovation and originality, we've reached the peak. I feel like we're definitely one level greater, said Long Chen. Fuck off, I can't bear it any longer. Finally, someone admitted defeat. He actually ran out of the palace. As soon as he was out, he began to vomit. His head was spinning and he almost collapsed. Nian and Long Chen's performance could practically be called soul-devouring devil music. People with weak spiritual strength were quickly reaching their limit. This wasn't all just thanks to how amazing Long Chen and Nian's music was. It was also due to the power of the divine runes hanging in the air from Yu Xiaoqian's scripture chanting. The power of those runes was surging into their minds to help them comprehend the scripture. Originally, the master of this world was very peaceful and didn't like fighting. He wished to deliver this world from its suffering. The scripture being chanted right now was part of the inheritance he had given to Yu Xiaoqian. Yu Xiaoqian was in a meditative state and unaware that she was chanting the scripture to benefit everyone present. If the palace was peaceful, people would gain quite a bit from this opportunity. This was the good fortune the master of this place had left behind. However, this fortune had been ruined by Long Chen and Nian. At the same time as it became easier to receive the immortal scripture, it also became easier to receive their ruckus. It was like a person wanted water to drink, and when they opened their mouths, a clear stream flowed in along with muddy water. There was no way for them to reject or isolate the sound coming from Long Chen and Nian. Those with weak spiritual strength were about to flee. Even those with strong spiritual strength were dizzy, feeling like their heads would split open. More and more experts ran from the palace. As soon as they were out, they felt much more comfortable. Bastards, I refuse to believe that they can hide inside for a lifetime. Once they come out, I'll definitely take my bite out of their flesh. Outside the palace, the immortal scripture and the ruckus were blocked. The sounds only affected the people inside the palace. With each passing moment, more and more experts were forced to run out. Unable to comprehend the scripture, no one was willing to stay within and torment themselves. All who left were gloomy, flames about to spurt from their eyes. They looked at Long Chen and Nian who were still performing, and furious veins bulged on their foreheads. They sat down, waiting for the two of them to come out. Feng, true immortal Jiaoqi, and Qilin were peak experts with powerful spiritual strength. However, even though they could resist the noise coming from the two of them, they were unable to calm down enough to comprehend the scripture. The three of them coldly glared at the two before also leaving. They didn't say a word, but the killing intent in their eyes was starting to condense frost. If looks could kill, Long Chen and Mo Nian would have died 1,000 times over. Seeing Feng, true immortal Jiaoqi, and Gui can all leave, the 1,000 experts that were still bitterly enduring lost any motivation to hold on and also left. Long Chen's axe and claws fell to the ground. Mo Nian also put away his bells. The world returned to calm. In all my life, this is the first time feeling silence is such a blessing, sighed Mo Nian. Agreed. Long Chen bitterly smiled. If it hadn't been for those people's furious gazes, he himself wouldn't have been able to endure so long. This kind of work wasn't for humans. Yu Xiaoqian's voice was also fading. The runes in the palace began to dim. In the end, the light pillar also faded. The palace lost its original grand aura and rapidly decayed. It seems we're about to have to work. Mo Nian looked at the cracks slowly spreading across the walls. His lips curled. Suddenly, the ground caved in and the entire palace collapsed. A giant figure charged in with a halberd. Long Chen, I'll tear you to shreds, roared true immortal Jiaoqi. The inheritance had come to an end. Having lost its purpose, the palace collapsed, its divine marks crumbling. It was like millions of years of decay occurred in just a few seconds. True immortal Jiaoqi charged through the collapsing palace, blowing it to bits. Breaks over. Long Chen slashed Evil Moon out. With his divine ring present behind him, he activated his 5-star battle armor and green dragon battle armor. Boom. Evil Moon met true immortal Jiaoqi's halberd, following which a spear pierced toward Long Chen's ribs. Feng had also charged in. However, his spear had just stabbed forward when a 5-colored bow forced him back. Feng, last time, my corpse poison let you be arrogant. This time, we'll see who defeats who. Mo Nian launched 9 consecutive arrows. Arcing through the air, they came at him from different angles. Like 9 bolts of lightning, they forced him back time and time again. Then let's have a showdown today. Feng's spear began to blaze with divine light as he activated its power. A gate to another world appeared within his manifestation. He was using a paragon art. A paragon art? I have one as well. My Mo family's inheritance is even greater than your D family. When it comes to competing with paragon arts, you're just a rookie. Mo Nian's Yuan spirit lit up. The two figures within his manifestation separated, revealing a bow between them. It was a 5-colored bow that looked identical to Mo Nian's 5-element sun hunting bow. However, this bow didn't exist in this world. The 5-element sun hunting bow blazed with light. Its divine power skyrocketed, and an arrow shot out with the power to destroy heaven and earth. If your Mo family was actually powerful, it wouldn't have been destroyed. You're just a stray dog. Feng also unleashed his paragon art. His spear pierced forward. Boom. The two attacks collided, filling the sky with blazing light. Destroyed? Aren't I still here? My Mo family will definitely rise once more. As for you, Feng, you're just one stepping stone on my path of vengeance. Mo Nian unleashed a barrage of attacks with his bow. He was wild and domineering without the slightest trace of the Western wretch. You talk big, but I'll be the one killing you today. Feng also unleashed waves of spear images. They took the form of a lotus in full bloom, its petals slicing toward Mo Nian. You're the one talking big. Tell me, does your face hurt? Sneered Mo Nian. Die. Feng was instantly provoked. Long Chen's slap in the face was his life's greatest humiliation. Feng and Mo Nian began a wild clash. They had already fought 3 intense battles and were already familiar with each other's moves. There was no need for them to use any testing blows. On the other side, Long Chen was also in an intense clash. Evil Moon was unleashing explosive power, while the 72 dragon teeth were like 72 experts attacking at the same time. The dragon teeth were incredibly sharp, and even a Xian beast's body was unable to block them. True Immortal Jiaoqi had no choice but to be careful. Long Chen's fight with True Immortal Jiaoqi had just started when a black light shot toward Long Chen's back. Guichen had joined in. Long Chen snorted and directed one of the dragon teeth to block it. However, just as the black light was about to strike the dragon tooth, it curved and flew by it before continuing toward Long Chen. 10 dragon teeth lined up a wall and smashed into the black light. Boom! The black light splintered, transforming into countless figures. Those figures were actually thumb-sized beetles. They filled the sky, startling Long Chen. They were protected by something on their bodies that made it so the dragon teeth hadn't killed them from the impact. Using the dragon teeth to block True Immortal Jiaoqi, Long Chen unleashed a barrage of attacks with Evil Moon, unleashing saber images throughout the sky. Those beetles were blown apart upon contact with the saber images. Only now did Long Chen notice a strange kind of rune on them that could weaken the impact of any attacks they received. It was no wonder the dragon teeth hadn't killed them. Boom! Suddenly, Long Chen's saber quivered and the saber images vanished. True Immortal Jiaoqi's Qilin halberd had managed to force its way through the dragon teeth to attack him. At this time, Long Chen noticed that the armored drake in True Immortal Jiaoqi's manifestation had vanished, replaced by a giant Qilin figure. Its roar shook the heavens, and True Immortal Jiaoqi's power instantly erupted to an inconceivable level. Long Chen was knocked back a step. All of a sudden, a sharp pain came from his left shoulder. Startled, Long Chen looked to see a black beetle had actually reached him and was biting his shoulder. Even while covered in dragon scales, the black beetle was able to pierce his flesh with a mosquito's needle-like mouth. Long Chen felt his shoulder go numb. Without hesitation, Long Chen sliced off a large piece of flesh from his shoulder, sending the beetle flying. Long Chen was startled by the black beetle. It was definitely troublesome. If he got bitten in his vitals, it would be even worse. I'll get rid of him first. Long Chen ignored True Immortal Jiaoqi and charged toward the distant Guichen. Where do you think you're going? I'm your opponent, shouted True Immortal Jiaoqi. His halberd's light intensified, and he sent it piercing at Long Chen. As for Guichen, he sneered disdainfully. Long Chen, you're only at this level? You'll be dying at my hands today. Before he could finish speaking, brilliant sword light slashed down like a starry river. Boom! Guichen's figure suddenly vanished. The sword missed, instead slicing a long ditch. A woman appeared in the air, a sword in her hand and the wind blowing back her hair. Like an immortal descending into the mortal world, Yu Shaoqian had joined the fight. Long Chen, you focus on True Immortal Jiaoqi. Leave this person to me. Yu Shaoqian sent a message to Long Chen. Will you be all right? Asked Long Chen, a bit worried. Although I'm only in control of the slightest bit of the profound spirit Tao scripture, it's enough to handle him. The devil character appeared on her forehead once more, and a sacred energy filled the air. At the same time, runes appeared all over, surging toward her. Guichen, your Gui family has targeted my original devil race 3 times. You've killed countless numbers of our people. Today, you'll be repaying that blood debt. With a simple slash of her sword, heaven and earth rumbled. All the Daos of this world echoed her power. Guichen summoned countless black beetles, but they were all blown to bits. This is the power of the heavenly Daos. She's actually in control of this place's heavenly Daos. Guichen's expression changed. Waving his staff, he shot out a spiritual arrow. That black spiritual arrow carried with it a terrifying curse energy. The roaring of fiends could be heard coming from it. However, that curse power was shattered by Yu Shaoqian's sword. Her sword contained the will of the heavenly Daos. She was now the heir of the profound spirit Tao scripture and could control the power of this minor world. It was just a pity that she hadn't fully comprehended it yet, or she would have been the new master of this space and could annihilate anyone. However, even though she could only control a portion of this world's power, it put her at an immense advantage. That curse power was completely isolated by heavenly Tao energy. Ghost kings dominate the starry sky. Guichen finally became serious. A gate of death opened behind him, and figures came flying out. Each of them was a giant dozens of meters tall. They were made of black mist and emitting endless death chi. Their auras were hair-raising. What terrifying existences! Yu Xiaoqian's sword fell once more, striking one of the giant figures. That giant figure attempted to punch her. When they were about to clash, its arm transformed from mist into a solid entity. Its arm exploded upon receiving Yu Xiaoqian's sword. However, its arm quickly regrew, and it continued to attack her. 18 of these black giants were surrounding her. Yu Xiaoqian fought and weaved through them, wanting to get by them to kill Guican. However, Guican was crafty and knew that she was trying to get close. Each time, he would wave his staff, and one of those giants would appear in front of him, blocking her. Yu Xiaoqian was temporarily tied up with getting rid of the black giants. She was clearly at an immense advantage, but defeating Guican was not so easy to kill. They were in a deadlock. Seeing this, Long Chen was much more at ease. It was enough if Yu Xiaoqian was able to protect herself against Guican. With Evil Moon and the 72 dragon teeth, Long Chen faced true immortal Jiaoqi. True immortal Jiaoqi no longer seemed to be in a rush to attack. He stared at him coldly, a cruel smile on his lips. Long Chen, do you know? I wasn't planning on using my full power because I always viewed you guys as insignificant humans, not worthy of seeing my full power. However, you are just barely qualified. I'll show you the true power of the Xin beasts. Do you need to drink some breast milk first? Show me just how amazing animals like you are at sucking, mocked Long Chen. The ignorant are always fearless. You have no idea about the true power of the Qilin race. When I normally fight, I use my Drake power, but do you see my manifestation now? True immortal Jiaoqi pointed to the manifestation behind him. Now I'll be showing you my Qilin power. You will be the first human to die to my Qilin power, so you should be able to rest in peace. The blurry and vague manifestation behind true immortal Jiaoqi gradually became clearer. A giant Qilin beast appeared, and true immortal Jiaoqi's power sword. Die! The Qilin halberd rumbled through space as it smashed toward Long Chen. The Qilin design on the halberd lit up, and a Qilin's roar could be heard as the halberd fell toward Long Chen. Long Chen raised Evil Moon, unleashing all his power. However, even fully prepared, he felt like a star had just struck him. The skin on the back of his hands split open and blood splashed down. He was sent flying. True immortal Jiaoqi had summoned his Qilin power now. It caused his physical strength to multiply, and he was continuously forcing Long Chen back. A little human is an ant when it comes to power. You'll never be able to compare with the Xian beasts. True immortal Jiaoqi's body was bulging, and the blood vessels beneath his skin looked like wriggling snakes. It was as though his blood qi was on the verge of exploding out of him. Long Chen had barely managed to keep hold of Evil Moon in that exchange, but he still said, "I don't think so. Do you want to see what true power is? Long Chen, your arrogance has nothing to support it. You're just an ant in front of me." "Well, I don't mind experiencing your pitiful power," said true immortal Jiaoqi. "Alright, then I'll show you what true power is." Long Chen's blood began to circulate rapidly, rumbling like a flood. His blood seemed to be boiling. Dragon blood ignition. The dragon scales covering Long Chen's body faded, and the image of a dragon appeared on his forehead. That image was currently ablaze. As it burned, a sacred pressure caused the world to shake. Noble, holy, and arrogant. This pressure was as if the world's Daos were all forced to obey Long Chen. True immortal Jiaoqi's expression changed. He felt some kind of suppression that came from his bloodline. Half of true immortal Jiaoqi's bloodline came from the Drake race, and a Drake couldn't even count as a dragon, let alone a true dragon. When Long Chen ignited his true dragon essence blood, it made true immortal Jiaoqi feel a kind of dread, a feeling that he couldn't resist. "You think some green dragon essence blood is enough to suppress me? Foolish!" roared true immortal Jiaoqi. Bang! Long Chen's foot suddenly stamped on the air, causing the sky to shake. Are the Xian beasts that powerful? In front of a divine beast, you're the real ants. Evil Moon shook. True immortal Jiaoqi, who had been pushing Long Chen back the entire time, was suddenly blown backward. He crashed through 7 mountains before coming to a stop. He stared at Long Chen in shock. The dragon mark on Long Chen's forehead was still burning. He was actually incinerating his green dragon essence blood. This was a self-destructive move. Long Chen was not part of the dragon race. He wouldn't be able to produce more dragon essence blood. Now that he was incinerating it, his green dragon essence blood would never recover. However, Evil Moon was in slumber, and the dragon teeth were not heavy power weapons. He could only do this. With his green dragon essence blood burning, Long Chen felt each of his cells fill with explosive power. Long Chen suddenly vanished. When he reappeared, he was right in front of true immortal Jiaoqi. This was purely his physical strength without using thunder force. After that, his saber slashed toward true immortal Jiaoqi without any technique. It was a simple slash. However, this simple slash caused the world to turn silent. It was deathly still. That simple slash caused space-time to twist. Qilin roar heavenly strike. True immortal Jiaoqi's expression changed. The Qilin figure in his manifestation lit up like a blazing sun. Its light condensed on the Qilin halberd in his hand. The Qilin halberd pierced forward. Divine light erupted in the form of a giant spear image, striking Long Chen. This was a Qilin paragon art. Combined with his Qilin halberd, true immortal Jiaoqi had only been forced to use this move 3 times. Each time, he had slain his opponent. This was a secret art that the Qilin race had never transmitted outside. Evil Moon struck the Qilin halberd, and divine light exploded. True immortal Jiaoqi suddenly coughed up a mouthful of blood and flew back. Fuck, his dragon blood pressure is affecting my bloodline power. I can't unleash the power of my paragon art. True immortal Jiaoqi's expression was extremely ugly now. He had just summoned his paragon art when he sensed that the blood chi within him was off. Just as his paragon art was supposed to reach its peak, his blood chi went into chaos, causing his paragon art's power to sharply drop. The dragon blood pressure was completely suppressing him. He couldn't use his power. Just now, his blood chi had been in chaos and then his body had received a shock through Long Chen's attack, almost causing him to explode. He hadn't felt such a huge pressure when Long Chen had used the green dragon battle armor. But now that Long Chen was incinerating his essence blood, that dragon might was over 10 times stronger. The dragon race was the head of the divine beasts. They were gods amongst beasts, an incomparable existence. Any beast would feel a bloodline suppression. For true immortal Jiaoqi, this suppression was even more intense due to his Drake bloodline. Boom. The two once more clashed. True immortal Jiaoqi's Qilin halberd was sent flying out of his grasp by Long Chen's saber. Long Chen was unstoppable. Blowing away the halberd with his saber, he sent a kick at true immortal Jiaoqi's jaw. True immortal Jiaoqi instinctively dodged, raising his arm to block. As a result, Long Chen's kick struck his forearm. The sound of bones cracking rang out. His thick arm was instantly broken. Attacked together. True immortal Jiaoqi had brought a large mass of experts in. They had been excitedly watching, waiting to see true immortal Jiaoqi crush Long Chen. However, once Long Chen incinerated his green dragon essence blood, he became a completely different person. Seeing true immortal Jiaoqi at a disadvantage, over 1,000 Xian beast experts charged forward. These experts were all Empyreans with manifestations starting to awaken. They then immediately unleashed their strongest magical arts and divine abilities at Long Chen. The sky was filled with attacks. As Long Chen unleashed a giant saber image, magical arts crumbled in front of it, and divine light exploded. The strongest attacks of over 1,000 experts were unable to reach him. However, their attacks were able to force him back. Seeing this, others also joined their battle. Whether it was Nian and Feng or Yu Shaoqian and Gui Can, their battles had reached a climax. They were competing in speed and technique. Only Long Chen and true immortal Jiaoqi were competing in pure power. Yu Shaoqian and Nian's battlefields were too fast for them to keep up. They couldn't interfere. But joining in on Long Chen's battlefield was much easier. Experts from the Xian beasts, ancient races, corrupt path, ancient family alliance, and even some righteous experts launched long-distance attacks at Long Chen. Divine light exploded. Long Chen was instantly brought to desperate straits. True immortal Jiaoqi's expression was dark. He swung his arm. The arm that had been broken was already healed. Seeing Long Chen unable to retaliate in the face of over 3,000 experts' continuous attacks, true immortal Jiaoqi clenched his teeth. He wasn't weaker than Long Chen, but his bloodline was suppressed, making him unable to unleash his full power. He actually needed to rely on other people's help. Kill Long Chen. With over 3,000 experts attacking, Long Chen could only do his best to defend. There was no chance for him to counterattack, delighting them. It went without saying that with 3,000 experts attacking, ignoring everything else, they could simply exhaust his spiritual yuan. Suddenly, a scream rang out. That person had been bitten in the shoulder by an ant. "That's a heaven-devouring ant," shouted someone in shock. "There's only one. Kill it." "Wait, there's more." "Heavens, how are there so many?" Countless heaven-devouring ants had filled the sky behind them without them even knowing. The sky was dark. These heaven-devouring ants were like little pigs. Their strongest point was their powerful pincers, as well as the black fluid on them. More people were bitten and immediately lost half their bodies. The physical bodies of these powerful Empyreans seemed weak in front of the ants. It had to be known that heaven-devouring ants' pincers were able to even pierce the tough hides of 12th-rank magical beasts, let alone some humans. "Quick, kill them!" The experts immediately switched to a defensive formation. There were too many ants. If the experts separated, they would be easily defeated. The experts attacked crazily. The heaven-devouring ants possessed tough bodies, but even they couldn't block the full power of a divine item. However, the name of the heaven-devouring ants was not given for nothing. Even these powerful Empyreans couldn't just kill such a giant mass easily. Each attack could only kill a few dozen. There was no way to count how many of them there were. They filled the sky, and more of them were appearing. It was becoming more difficult to survive as quite a few people were bitten and killed. Most terrifying of all, the heaven-devouring ants possessed a special ability. When people got bitten, their souls would be paralyzed. Even their yuan spirits couldn't escape. Seeing this torrent of heaven-devouring ants, Long Chen suddenly suppressed his aura and vanished. At the same time, Yu Shaoqian also stopped attacking. She actually fled, leaving behind a dumbfounded Gui Can. He had been on the verge of defeat, but Yu Shaoqian had actually given up. "Heroic heaven-devouring ants, listen to your master's orders. Devour these bastards." When the army of heaven-devouring ants arrived, Nian also stopped attacking. A portion of the heaven-devouring ants charged toward Feng, completely ignoring Nian. It really was like they were house pets that he had summoned. Feng was appalled and hastily blocked. "How is this possible?" raged Feng. The heaven-devouring ants were known for being impossible to be turned into house pets. They lacked any intelligence and couldn't follow orders. However, Nian seemed to have victory in his grasp. Adding on the fact that the heaven-devouring ants were biting him, Feng was shocked and infuriated. Although the heaven-devouring ants weren't all that dangerous for him, as time passed, they could exhaust his spiritual yuan. Even someone as powerful as Feng couldn't allow the heaven-devouring ants to bite him. Now that the sky was filled with them, he felt a chill. The truth was that these heaven-devouring ants weren't biting Nian because their intelligence was too low. Their instincts led them to their priority targets, and before those targets were eliminated, they wouldn't attack others. When Feng had smashed apart the stone tablet at the entrance to this tomb, the stone tablet had been hiding the crushed corpses of some heaven-devouring ants. There was dark liquid within the abdomen of the heaven-devouring ants, and it was used to summon reinforcements. If one was killed, the killer would be splashed with that liquid, drawing more heaven-devouring ants. Feng's destruction of the stone tablet had caused the corpses of over 20,000 heaven-devouring ants to spread through the air. Nian was also evil and had used a stone tablet that was the same color as the liquid so that it wouldn't be sensed. When the flying stone and powder had filled the air, the people had been infected by some of the odor, and the results were seen now. The reason the heaven-devouring ants were called a variant species was because they possessed completely incomprehensible techniques. The air of death from so many heaven-devouring ants had spread throughout the yin-yang world. Practically, every heaven-devouring ant within the yin-yang world had come charging over. This huge underground world was now occupied by them. There was a dark sea covering the sky. They smelled the odor on these experts' bodies and viewed them as the murderers who had killed their companions. They began a crazy assault. Originally, a portion of these experts hadn't been infected by the odor, but seeing others attack, they followed along, resulting in them being infected by the odor as well. They were all viewed as enemies. Long Chen, Yu Shaoqian, and Nian had long since kept up a domain to block that odor. Even if some brainless heaven-devouring ants attacked them, they would only push them aside instead of killing them. I, Nian, am the god of these heaven-devouring ants. They are my troops. Tell me, who is qualified to compete with me? Things that are impossible for others can be done in passing by me. Just patiently await your deaths. You'll all die to my army of heaven-devouring ants. Nian's voice resounded through the air, but people couldn't see where he was. There were too many heaven-devouring ants. They were like a flood, and they had no idea where Nian was. However, his words terrified them. The endless heaven-devouring ants were like black fiends. People were dying with each passing moment. Form up. Get in a formation. Don't fight alone. Roar Feng. True immortal Jiaoqi and Qilin had also noticed that things were off. The heaven-devouring ants might not be able to threaten them for now, but they were fatal to others. The three of them joined into a battle formation, protecting everyone. They combined their forces, managing to block the heaven-devouring ants. As long as they had enough time, they could annihilate these heaven-devouring ants. That plan sounded nice, but it was an overestimation of their abilities. These 3,000 experts came from different powers, having no experience cooperating with each other. As long as a single person didn't match the others, it would leave an opening in their defenses. Quite a few people were still being killed. The reason the Dragonblood Legion was called the world's strongest legion wasn't because of their individual fighting skills, but that their cooperation had reached a perfect level. As for these people, they might be powerful Empyreans, but they were also prideful heavenly geniuses. When it came to cooperation, they were a wild rabble. A single mistake in their cooperation resulted in death. They began to fight for themselves again. At the very least, that would protect their own lives. They didn't want to trust their lives to others. The heaven-devouring ants continued charging toward them in an endless tide. Each time they charged, they would reap a few lives. These experts couldn't change their ultimate fate. How is this possible? No, it's impossible. This is a nightmare. Tell me that this isn't real. The sight of this tide was a blow to the mental states of these experts. The heaven-devouring ants were reaping their lives, while they could only crazily defend. No matter how they fought, it seemed they were only winning a few more seconds of life. It's useless. Struggling is futile. Just give up. Remember the name of Nian. When the Yama King asks you how you died, you can say my name. Speaking of which, you also need to remember an awesome verse. 10 years I wandered with my bow, my arrows causing heaven and earth to shake. The 9 heavens, 10 lands, and all the universe will revolve around me. Only I, Nian, will rise to glory. Nian's voice once more resounded through the air. It came from every direction. It was like the mocking of a devil, infuriating them while also making them feel despair. Long Chen, Yu Shaoqian, and Nian looked into the distance where a black sea covered the battlefield. Nian's mocking shout left Long Chen speechless. This fellow was the truly evil one. Yu Shaoqian looked backward at the entrance to the tomb. There was still a stream of heaven-devouring ants coming from there. These heaven-devouring ants are absolutely terrifying. Long Chen, you're a genius. Praised Yu Xiaoqian. Ah, it was just a lucky spark of brilliance. I didn't really think it would come to anything. I also didn't expect them to be so terrifying. It looks like all the yin-yang world's heaven-devouring ants have been drawn over. No wonder Evil Moon didn't want me to provoke them. Even Long Chen was amazed. When he had first entered the yin-yang world and been chased down by the heaven-devouring ants, he had been provoked and almost killed them. If he had done that, he really would have been doomed. He would have faced the hunt of all the heaven-devouring ants in this world. Looking at this sea of ants, he thanked his luck that he had listened to Evelmun's suggestion. Yes, being obedient was good. Boom. Suddenly, the sea of heaven-devouring ants surged and shook. It seems true immortal Jiaoqi and the others are finally going all out. Long Chen glanced back to the entrance. The stream of heaven-devouring ants was starting to shrink. It seemed that all of the heaven-devouring ants in the yin-yang world had already arrived. Let's go. We'll seal the exit. The three of them flew over. As expected, the heaven-devouring ants just flew past them. They completely ignored the three of them. They clearly had some special communication method and knew that the heaven-devouring ants up ahead were in danger, so they were rushing to assist. As for Long Chen, Mo Nian, and Yu Xiaoqian, they weren't infected with any of the odor of the heaven-devouring ants, so they were naturally ignored. The three of them left. Now, the experts within the sea of heaven-devouring ants were in hell on earth. Even Feng, true immortal Jiaoqi, and Qilin could not prevent their people from being slain one by one. The endless horde of heaven-devouring ants caused despair. Even as they killed as many of them as they couldn't see their numbers drop. Their corpses had piled into mountains, but they still filled the sky. These experts couldn't see the slightest hope. At first, there were over 3,000 experts, but in just half an incense stick's worth of time, over 1,000 of them had been killed. If this continued, they would all die. We can't continue like this. There's too many heaven-devouring ants. We have to lead a portion of our elites to break through, said Feng. No. I won't abandon my people, said true immortal Jiaoqi frostily. Qilin expression was gloomy, and he didn't say anything. It was unknown what he was thinking. Up to you. I'm going to lead my people through. Although there might be many deaths, at least some of the stronger ones will live. Staying here will only result in them all dying, said Feng. His manifestation rumbled. A giant spear pierced through the air. The heaven-devouring ants in the path of that spear were blown to bits, but they still couldn't see any light. There were even more heaven-devouring ants than they had thought. Seeing this, Qilin said, if the three of us don't work together, the only ones remaining at the end will be the three of us. Clearly, Qilin agreed with Feng's plan. There were too many heaven-devouring ants, and staying here trying to protect everyone would only leave them with corpses. Most terrifying of all, even they couldn't endure such a fight for long. They naturally weren't willing to put their own lives in danger, so they wanted to charge through, creating an opening for at least a portion of the others to get through. Seeing that the opening that Feng had created was filled up in an instant, true immortal Jiaoqi was filled with rage. He was unwilling. He knew that the Xian beast experts were his people, and he was unwilling to abandon them. The Xian beasts were actually very united. Long Chen, Mo Nian, I will definitely tear the two of you into pieces. True immortal Jiaoqi clenched his teeth. He could only helplessly accept this plan. Everyone follow us. Don't fall behind. We're going to charge our way through, shouted Feng. He unleashed his powerful paragon art once more, sending a spear through the heaven-devouring ants. Only paragon arts were capable of causing significant casualties to this sea of heaven-devouring ants. However, paragon arts took up a shocking amount of energy, and even the three of them couldn't use them lightly. True immortal Jiaoqi also roared, using his Qilin power to blast his way through. Qilin repeatedly waved his staff, causing divine light to flow out. The light transformed into sharp swords that pierced through the sky. It was also a paragon art. The three of them forcibly created a huge opening through the heaven-devouring ants. The three of them charged through, and the other experts immediately charged behind them. However, some people were just too slow. They were still flying through the opening when the army of heaven-devouring ants converged on them once more, cutting off their single hope. No! Cries of despair rang out. Those experts knew that they were about to die. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.